hear me. That's kind of important because I'm the host. I don't know if anyone's listening in. Isn't live yet? Okay. Let me know when it goes live. It says it's live on my end. It might take a little bit. Unless somebody in the actual YouTube chat can tell me that we're live. Okay, awesome. Great. So we are live. Welcome, everybody. It has been a very long time. It's been like 6 months already, I think, since our last ASMR RP podcast with our anniversary group. This time, we actually have a new set of people this time around. I am very happy to introduce every single one of you all. So we're going to go down in alphabetical order after myself. Again, my name is BluechanXD. I am the host of this podcast series. I am a 3 years now writer over on both ASMR Script Haven as well as Talking Tall Tales. And we have some special guests this time around. Let us start with Mr. Oral Arcana. Please tell us about yourself and also use this time to do your shameless plugs.
Thank you. So I've been doing audio role plays for about a year and a half now, and just kind of slowly growing and building and learning. And of course, beyond YouTube, I have a channel on Patreon where more emotionally complex and spicier stuff is done. And I love doing collaborations and getting to know other people in the community. But otherwise, I'm just kind of doing my own thing over here. It's been a lot of fun.
What is very great to have you. So our
Thanks.
next person up, actually on the list, it's kind of funny how it shows up here because it shows you as apathy, but technically it's lyrical apathy. So we're not actually going in alphabetical order, but it's fine. So either way, please let's welcome lyrical apathy. Please tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Apathy. I mostly just write. You can find me Lyrical Apathy on basically anything, Reddit, Twitter, whatever. I mostly just write and upload stuff to Reddit and Discord, and the, that's my thing. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're the only two, I guess, singular authors here. Everybody else does both things. We had some trouble getting like singular VAs this time around, but so
Yeah,
we'll be
we're
the
just
only ones
special.
answering like just one group of questions. Everybody else answers everything. Um, Anyways, next up we have is it Kanade or something else?
Kanade?
Okay,
No,
Kanade.
you told me.
Yeah, so please tell us about yourself, Kanade.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kanade. I co-run the channel Kyokun Kanade with my sister Kyoko, and we've been doing that for almost 4 years in June, which is so crazy to say, but yeah, we really love making audios, and our content kind of gravitates towards more fantasy, but we have a bunch of different genres. Yeah, I'm really excited for today, and if you want to check me out, I guess you can find me at Kyokun Kanade on both YouTube and Patreon. So yeah.
It's very nice having you here. Also, I guess just for easier searching, we do have everybody's channels and their handles in the description of this video. So go ahead and check them all out there. So next up is Katerina Marie. Please tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Katarina Marie ASMR. I have been doing ASMR roleplays for about 9 years. I just recently started writing, so that would be like 2 years for writing for me. Um, I mostly just do comfort scripts or comfort writing to make sure everyone's comfortable listening to my stuff. I really appreciate being here. You can find me on YouTube and Patreon.
Very happy to have you all here, and I'm not sure if it's gonna let you all post your information in the chat. I think you have to actually be like a channel member or something, or like or one of the moderators. I guess here's a good way to guess bring this up and kind of show our Discord. If you'll want to get more information on these people as well, we have our Discord that we're actually doing this from, which is the ASMR Script Guild server. So please join us. We do have a link over on, I think it's Talking Tall Tales. I think they might have one. I know that ASMR Directory has one as well to our server, but feel free to reach out here and we can send you a link if you want to join. And of course, last but certainly not least, we have Key. Please tell us about yourself.
I'm Key, the voice behind Key Whispers. I I don't know how long I've been doing the voice stuff. I think it's been about a year and a half too. But I've been writing for most of my life. I've just found a new passion in writing scripts for VA stuff at this point.
Again, it is great to have every single one of you here. I am super excited to get to these questions. For those who are unfamiliar with our past podcast, we don't really allow questions to be asked in the chat just because we already have a list ready to go. Unless we have extra time and people want to answer questions in the chat itself, we're probably not going to bring it up. I guess speaking it during the podcast itself. But again, if you do have a question, feel free to post it here. But if any of our podcast panelists want to answer in the chat, feel free to do so. So let us get started. I have a list of questions here. First one is actually from me, and it's going to be for our writers. And I do have a randomizer here that will help me decide on who's going to be talking first. So everybody here is a writer, interestingly enough. So I guess we're going to all answer these questions as well as everybody questions. It's just the VA ones that are going to be a little bit more limited. So first question, again, is for me. It's going to be for our writers. When writing characters, do you imagine them as real-life people, anime manga style, faceless blobs, etc.? So let me get my randomizer. Our first person is Key.
I think the best way to describe it is kind of like a faceless clay mold. And as I write more about the characters or kind of craft them, the mold becomes more defined. But I never try to put in like visual traits until the very end, if that's actually necessary for the character.
And I guess like the better question would be like, if you were to give that character a face by the end, is it gonna look like a real person? Is it like more cartoony, anime? What would that look like for you?
I think it depends on what I'm writing. In the case of scripts, it's probably more cartoony so that the interpretations of the character that other people might have, if I'm not doing the script myself, doesn't like take away from my enjoyment of listening to that film.
That's interesting, like just because like whenever we have people who post like their thumbnails, like it has a very specific design to it. So I guess I feel like it's a little bit more hard to, I guess, get that down for certain people because they're all gonna have their own interpretations. But I guess we'll find out from everybody else as well. We're gonna go by nicknames and everything. Spoke with everybody prior to starting this. So I guess the next person is Ark.
Okay, so I think that largely depends on which character. So, for instance, like the listener is a character, and for me, they're always just a cloud, right? Because I don't want to envision anything that the main speaker is supposed to be saying that tips their hat towards what the listener looks like. Because if somebody doesn't look like that, then it takes them out of the story. But everybody else, yes, they have a specific look, and absolutely they are real life people, not cartoon.
Very interesting. Okay, next is Kanade.
Yeah, so I think honestly it just depends on my process, whether I make the thumbnail first or like write the script first. If I make the thumbnail first, I definitely think I imagine like the person I chose for that thumbnail because it's like I already thought of those ideas. But if I'm writing, usually they're pretty faceless, like unless I talk about their traits in the script, but usually I don't. So most of the time, I would definitely say they don't really have a specific look until the thumbnail is made, and if that thumbnail is more cartoonish, I guess it kind of follows that style.
Honestly, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that where they make the thumbnail first. It's usually after.
Oh.
So
It
that's
just
good.
like depends on like what I don't know, like what I have time for. If I'm like sitting somewhere and I'm like, I could make a thumbnail right now, and I just end up making it.
I mean, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very interesting though. I wonder, does that actually like change your process a bit, like in terms of like how they act? Like if you have a specific look in mind beforehand?
I don't think it really changes how I write about that character. It could change like how I describe them, but I usually like even before I have the thumbnail, I obviously like have the idea, and then like I kind of have ideas of how I want them to act or traits I want them to have like characteristically. So like I guess less of like how they act and yeah, if I ever describe how they look, which usually I don't, but like in the once in a blue moon.
I just kind of feel like I'm wondering, it's like how would the speaker describe themselves? It's like, do you like this like do you like this blue outfit I'm wearing or something, you know? I don't know, it sounds kind of funny, but I'm wondering how people do that, but who knows? Next up, we have apathy.
All right. So it's actually it's like a it depends sort of thing for me. Um, Kind of like arc almost, but um for me it depends if it's a series or if it's like a one-shot kind of thing. Because if it's like a one-off script, then it's kind of just like the faceless blobs. But if it's a series with a more developed character, then it's like more defined for me. And it's more of that like anime manga cartoon style for sure. Like I have full descriptions. I can't draw. I wish I could, but they do have appearances if it's a more in-depth thing.
Do you think that has to do with like how attached you are to the characters, or
Oh
like how
yeah.
much time you're spending thinking about them? Because if you're writing for a series, you're thinking about them so much longer.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. It's when it's a series, it's more than just words for me. It's a character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, because you're
Totally.
building
Yeah.
up this character through several parts, and it's a lot more in depth compared to, say, for instance, again, just your one shot type character, which is for a lot of people a one and done thing. But you know, you got to keep thinking about that same character or
Yeah.
multiple, however long you write the character for.
Yeah,
So,
and I
so
like care about them.
it makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And so, next up, we have Kat.
Hello. So what I like to do is usually when I'm in the middle of writing, um, I will stop in the middle of writing the actual script and then I will just sit here and close my eyes and I will try to visualize the person that I'm trying to make. Um, and as soon as I do that, I like to make them in a thumbnail, usually use Pic Crew or I have friends that are artists. But usually I like to just sit here, you know, relax and just think about what my character would look like. What would this OC would think, feel, just what would her hair, body language, her clothing would look like. And that's just how I do it most of the time.
Become the character.
Become the character, yes.
True. Uh, I guess I'll answer my own question. Just because I did sort of bring this up a while back in the Discord server. I think it was fairly recently. I think Leica was there. We had this conversation. I see you in the chat. Um, but yeah, a lot of my characters tend to be faceless blobs if it's a one shot for the most part. And even some series, I feel like it starts off where like I kind of just have like this general vision of the setting more than I do the actual character. Um, like it's a little weird how that kind of turns out, or because I try to stick to fantasy settings for the most part. Um, I will say that I do like the anime manga style, especially because I do draw. So I have a tendency to kind of stick toward that style when thinking about my characters just because that's what I can draw in case I wanted to. And I actually had some ideas of making like some free art for people to use for their thumbnails, but I don't know if I'm good enough for that just yet.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Maybe someday. Um, but otherwise, yeah, like similar to what you all were saying, I think it was apathy, where especially for series, I feel that sometimes characters tend to be a little bit more defined for me. And even some one shots, it really just depends because certain ideas, and this comes down to how I choose what to write, where certain ideas will come from just like random shower thoughts that I have, and then other times it's going to be based on some story that I wrote several years ago. So a lot of those ideas that I had years ago had time to kind of cook in my brain a little bit, so I have a little bit more defined ideas as to what those characters look like compared to ones where it's just, oh, I came up with this like 2 minutes ago. But yeah, that's just my thing. So let us move on to our next question. So this is for our VAs. How dependent do you think VAs are on scripts written by dedicated writers? And also, it's going to be a little weird because you all write your own scripts, but let's just play pretend for a little bit. But anyways, yeah. How dependent do you think VAs are on scripts written by dedicated writers? With writers, their work can still be enjoyed through reading, but with VAs, you still need a script/story, and not all VAs are comfortable with writing. What do you think you would voice instead if no scripts were available, or you didn't also write? So it's a kind of a loaded question. Let me get my randomizer ready. Kat is first.
Um, that's actually a good question. I think VAs are somewhat depending on scripts because sometimes people, just can't come up with stuff in their head. Sometimes they need a lead. Sometimes they need something that they can read off of and feel happy by doing so. Um, what do you think you would voice instead if no scripts were available? I honestly, I would go with the flow. I would sit here, write down and well, don't write down because you couldn't
Like
write,
this
but
is if we don't write. That's the thing. So,
you know
I
what?
know this is kind of a hard question
Yeah,
to say for people who do write. Is the thing.
you know what? I should say like sit around, get yourself in a good environment. Maybe like sit in the middle of flowers, get into like a coffee shop, or go to different settings where you could come up with ideas of your own and go from there.
I guess so something like improv. So I
Yeah,
guess more of
improv.
the
Yeah,
feel.
yeah, definitely.
So let's see. Next up is Key.
Um, that's kind of a hard one to answer
I
for
know.
me because
I wish I had mine just only VAs here, but unfortunately.
well, so for me specifically, I can't actually read my own scripts. Um, Whenever I try to voice my own scripts, it I start editing it while trying to voice it, which obviously takes me out of the headspace I need to be in order to voice it. So if I don't have a script to use, I tend to just improv off the top of my head, and that's a fair majority of my channel at this point.
Ad libs, ad libs the video.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, but as I talk to other VAs, I think the dependence on scripts kind of comes from a lot of the times it sounds almost like it's a confidence thing. They don't think that they can improv, or they don't have a method of improvisation, so they don't try to do it because they're scared to get off the scripts.
Yeah, I hear that a lot too.
So I think the dependence kind of comes down to the individual VA and how dependent they let themselves be on those scripts.
I guess maybe to elaborate on this question more is if you still wanted like a quote unquote script, like would you voice act like for like a game or like a visual novel or something, or do audiobooks like if you didn't have scripts in the ASMR setting? Something like that.
I've actually had the opportunity to do that, but
Oh.
I wasn't feeling the best at that time, so I wasn't able to do that. So yeah, actually I think I'd try because I like telling stories and this medium helps me tell stories. So I think I'd have fun. I think I'd have fun using a script from something else, even if it wasn't just a VA.
Mm-hmm. I mean, essentially everything is a script. You really think about it if you're voice acting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just I kind of want to hear from people and say, like this would be an interesting thing because like ASMR scripts have a very different feel compared to something like a book where you have to do like the descriptions and everything. You're like voicing several characters sometimes, like in an audiobook, and you have to change your voice and stuff. And I guess some people might not be comfortable with that. So I feel like it sounds a lot more challenging, like than it seems, right? Like anytime that I hear audiobooks, you're like, oh, that sounds fun, but then you hear all these like people doing the voice acting and they have all these different voices of the characters. And how do you do this? I'm very impressed by people who can do audiobooks.
I've actually heard a couple of audiobooks where there's a full cast so that there's only one voice per character.
That's cool.
And the thing is I actually enjoy those more because it becomes a full production where you can tell that the passion has gone in by each person voicing each character, even if it's a minor character. And then there's usually a soundscape that goes along with it. So it's a lot of fun to listen to those productions that people have put their hearts into. Not to say that the people that can voice multiple characters are not great at what they do, but for some reason it's the production of it makes it more enjoyable somehow.
Yeah, I think that also kind of translates over into ASMR RP itself, where like you kind of get sucked in a little bit better once you have all the soundscapes and the sound effects. Like I've seen some VAs go all out with fills in my scripts, and I just think to myself, "Oh my gosh, just how did you do this? Just it feels real." But yeah, yes, let's go on. Next is Kanade.
How dependent do you think VAs are on scripts? I think pretty dependent because, like, if you don't write, I'm sure other people's scripts are like the first thing you would go to. But if no scripts were available and I didn't write, in all honesty, my channel probably would not exist at all because I don't know, I'm pretty nitpicky about like the storytelling and writing aspect of a script, and I'm just like, yeah, not good enough at improv to create things I would like want to post. So the person he was talking about, that person is me. But maybe if there were no scripts, maybe audiobooks, because I feel like that's close enough to this genre that it would feel somewhat similar. Like I would feel kind of familiar with it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting hearing. It's like what we would do, I guess, instead, just because, again, the mediums are just so different sometimes. Like, even if it seems similar, like, you're doing very different things between them. Because it's one thing
Yeah.
to just say, okay, here's just the voice of this one character, and you yourself are doing a lot of the editing, or unless you have an editor on hand, compared to, again, if you're going to do say an audiobook where sometimes you might have to be the narrator, you might have to be another character unless you have the full production like he was saying. So again, it's kind of different experiences and all that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And let's see. Okay, so last is Arc.
Yeah. So as far as dependence, I've seen such variety in how a given VA depends on scripts. And both ends of the spectrum. Like one day I had somebody that I didn't know very well, another VA, contact me and say, I've got a Patreon audio I need to put out today, and I don't have a script. You have one that I can use. And conversely, like Turtle of Audios, who's somebody that I got to know pretty well early on, she almost exclusively ad-libs her scripts. And I've learned so much from, just working with her a couple times. So very individualized, I would say. For me personally, if I'm writing for myself, typically it's an outline with, a couple blocks of particularly poignant back and forths kind of, fully written out. But I do have, at least half of every audio typically ad-libbed at this point, because I've come up with all the ideas basically written in my head before I get into it.
Honestly, like, again, this is super impressive to me whenever I hear stuff like that, where people can just on the fly come up with something and then just it works. But I don't know, is it
Not
something that
always.
just comes,
Sometimes it's
yeah,
multiple takes.
I just feel like it's just something that I feel comes more with people who can, I guess, treat the character almost as if it's having a real conversation. Honestly, I don't know how else to put it. Where
That's
you're kind of just
exactly
coming
how
up
I
with
would
stuff on the
approach
fly,
it.
yeah. But these are some interesting answers that y'all are having. So let's move on to our last question from me. And this is for everybody. So, how do you differentiate your characters from each other, be they written or voiced, or are they just the same character to you? And what I mean by this is more like, especially for our VAs, because a lot of times people will use the same voice for different characters, right? I mean, it's typical anyways for just acting in general, where some people just kind of have that one voice that they stick with overall. But I am curious to hear what you all have to say. Kanade is first.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, but I don't know, I feel like the most differentiation comes from, I guess, the more plot-heavy videos I do, where like they have a really distinct backstory or like way they talk, and it's kind of easy to have them separate in my mind when they have such different backgrounds, or their story just takes place in like either really distinct like times or like settings. But in all honesty, like the shorter, I guess, one-shot characters that kind of only have like one video are not like the most distinct to tell apart, at least for me, because they definitely have similar characteristics that make them alike to each other. So sometimes they like mesh together in my brain. But honestly, Kyoko and I have like about 200-ish videos. I don't know if I'm right about that, but it gets really hard to like remember them all and like differentiate, like make them different in my head. So sometimes some mesh together and some are less likely to because they just have more videos. They're like more pronounced in my mind, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I'd agree, and it actually kind of goes into my own answer, and I'm technically next. So I'll kind of like tie in, I guess, what you were saying about this, where, yeah, like really sometimes certain characters, especially how I was saying before with the previous question that I answered, some characters just kind of blend together because they don't really have as much depth that I put into them compared to others. Um, Especially, and this is something I like to joke about in the Discord server a lot, where, I have my Yandere bingo card where a lot of them just kind of have the same lines, the same ones that everyone always uses, the like, "You're finally awake, listener." Just like they all kind of blend together. It's like they all just feel like the same character sometimes. Like they say the same lines, and I'm just wondering, I'm like, is this the same person just kind of going to different people doing the same thing, right? But yeah, honestly, like especially for me, sometimes I don't really differentiate. And this is actually going to be an interesting one that I've actually kind of brought up before in the past, maybe not in a podcast before. But there are actually cases, and this actually ties into a later question, I think, that comes up on the list. I forget who asked it. I'll check later. But sometimes I actually have characters that were once the same character, but I split it into two completely different scripts. and sometimes you'd be just completely shocked by which ones were the same character at one point, because I had like one case where I had a script series where one of the characters was like in a fantasy setting, and then I had a different character who was in a modern setting, but they technically came from the same character that I wrote forever ago. Um, and so sometimes it's harder to differentiate those characters from each other because of the fact that they technically were the same person at one point in my head. But otherwise, again, just some of the personalities blend together unless it's like a series where you had time to cook that person's backstory in the back of your head. And especially for me, when I do my one shots, I don't really have a backstory sometimes for characters when I write them. So it's kind of harder to differentiate in that case. Anyways, let us move on. Arc is next.
Yeah. So from a conceptual standpoint, like differentiating the characters on the page before they ever hit voice, uh, that depends. And I hate saying this all the time. That depends, but like most of the audios that I do have like let's say a regular guy, right? And for the most part, that's the voice you're getting right now. And the differentiation in my head though is a matter of confidence. Uh, out of all of the characteristics that I've been working with, like how confident the person is in their feelings and what they're saying at the moment is the differentiator in how I approach that voice. So, you know, if they're uncertain about the relationship before them or the adventure about to befall them, like you know, that's that level of hesitance, and how you introduce that to their voice is the defining trait to me. But of course, then beyond that, like once you start getting to voice, then you start thinking about, okay, if it's not a regular person, you know, what is it? Because, you know, I've also voiced dragons and stuff, you know, like, how dare you enter my lair? You know, I mean, like you're not, it's so far different that it doesn't even count as part of the conversation, right? And I think we're talking about what is the differentiator between, you know, a similar species, similar situation
like
type stuff.
humans.
Yeah, and it's confidence. Confidence is the big thing, because if you're a little bit cocky, that comes across. If you're hesitant, that comes across. I'd say that's the differentiator for me.
Here's actually something that I think, that we already got past a couple people, but I know that some VAs play around with accents for their characters
Mm-hmm.
just to differentiate them a little bit more. And I know some people like maybe aren't super confident in doing that to differentiate. But I guess we'll see from everyone else if they do. I don't know if our previous people who answered can, I guess, attest to that in any
Yeah,
way.
I mean, I've done Mafia guys, I've done, you know, Regency British guys, and yeah, Southern. Basically, anytime I do an accent, I try not to make it their personality, and typically it also involves a lot more work for me because I want to make sure that it sounds right, so it's multiple takes.
Mhm. Yeah, especially if it's not one that I guess you're used to, or one that's not your natural accent. So you have to kind of concentrate more on how that sounds. And then I feel in some cases you might just slip and not really get down the personality that you wanted for the character
Hmm.
just because you're focusing more on one thing and then another.
That's a thing. Yep.
Hmm. Let's see. Okay, next up is Cat.
So definitely you gotta have confidence. Because when you go to do accents and to this one's actually a tricky question for me.
And I always have the hard questions to give people.
I really appreciate it. Honestly, how I differentiate, I can't word, how I make them different is either by accent, by tone, by how they're written. Say I could write a little girl who lost her parents, and it would be like, "Oh no, I lost my mom and dad," and then the other one could just be like, as an example from I think it was either Arc or someone, mafia wise, it would be like, "Well, hello there." It just depends on what confidence you have, because if you don't got a lot of confidence, then I don't think it would work out well.
Hey, how you doing?
Jesus
Well,
Christ.
honestly, like it really depends on the personality, because sometimes you do want that type of character who isn't as confident, because maybe you want the listener to be the comforter, right? Or somebody who's a little bit more outgoing that is helping the speaker in this case. So I think, yeah, it really comes down to what you're trying to get out of the narrative,
Mm.
especially from the writing
Yeah,
standpoint.
true.
Let's see, and let's actually get another writer perspective on this. Apathy is next.
Yes. So my answer is not going to be as in depth because I'm a writer, not a VA. But I do have ways that I tell like the difference between my characters, like just in the way that I write them, like little like words that kind of all add up to the general vibe that a character has. And like in my mind, they're all different. So I mean, I don't voice them, but I have my ways of like making a difference clear. So, but yeah, I don't really have
Actually, what
a
it's
lot of
fine.
interesting things to
It
say
actually
here.
it actually made me think of something right now where, you know how we have our tone indicators for our scripts, where like certain people will say a line, but you know it comes off differently depending on what the tone is, right? Like you can play it straight for some people, but then like maybe the person's trying to be manipulative, right? Like they're trying to sound nice, but it's very clear that what they're saying really isn't. So
Yeah,
uh and I know some writers don't always put them in because they want to let the VAs do the work or just kind of feel it out for themselves. But sometimes, you know, with us writers, we have something in
yeah,
particular in mind, and you know, like sometimes it's harder to get certain tones across just with the text itself.
yeah. It's like there's a difference between like, oh, you know, I love you, and you know, I love you.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty much like that. That's kind of why I say that's my tone indicators. If you're a writer, had your tone indicators. Unless you want your VAs to just wing it, right?
leaving them in a hot car.
Alrighty, and last we've got Key.
I'm kind of two minds of this because I don't think I do it very well as a VA. Whereas as a writer, I definitely try to differentiate between my characters, even if it's a one shot. In my head, what I tend to try to do is essentially craft each character as like a set of Legos. So if it's a Minotaur, that's a Lego. Maybe this Minotaur is shy. That's another Lego that's kind of added into the character. And over time, I'll build up the image of that character so that I can basically be like, this Minotaur is different from this one. But then when it comes to being a VA, I've tried the accent thing, but I tend to get so focused that I think I lose the accent throughout my my audio. I've had a couple people comment on it.
That's a thing, yeah.
So I'm trying to fix that. But then I think confidence is always a part of it. Then there's tone, as you said. and someone made a point about vocabulary and speech patterns in the chat, which is also like another part of differentiating the characters from each other.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out afterwards. Yeah,
So,
just because like really it does, because I mean there's a difference between me saying like hey guys and another saying like welcome. Welcome my lovely
mhm.
people, right? Like it has a different vibe to it. So like it really does come down to vocabulary and what you're trying to get out of the character. Like are you trying to make the person sound more casual, or are you trying to make them sound like an intellectual? You know, it really depends.
On top of that, there's also like I don't know what it's actually called, but mouth sounds.
Like
so
sticky
so
monkeys.
like yeah, essentially, where like some characters might say something like "ah, welcome" versus just "welcome," which changes the tone of the character.
Hmm.
Um, then long pauses can also change the tone or differentiate that character from a character that might speak quickly, so that their words all kind of blend together. Um, it's a lot of different pieces that can all be used to differentiate between the characters, both in writing and as a VA. But the ability to execute those, I think that differentiates between uh, person to person.
It's actually a really good
Uh,
point. The pauses. 'Cause sometimes, you know, you can get that awkward pause in, like, or the short pauses between specific lines. Like, it really does change the tone overall, not just the tone indicators. So I like that point.
a great way to help people visualize it or uh, orally see it, I guess. Treebeard is a good example where he elongates words whenever he speaks, and then he'll have long pauses as so he kind of comes across as a more thoughtful character as a result, because he speaks very deliberately because of how long it takes him to say something.
That is
Um,
interesting, honestly. I think I actually do have a script. I remember doing something similar to that where I say like character speaks very methodically, or like I forget what the term I used was, but like choosing your words again, it really changes the dynamic between the speaker and the listener in this case and gives it a
mhm.
different vibe. Alrighty, so let us move on. This was my last question. We have next person's questions. This is from Turtle Shark, who was a previous podcast panelist. So let us begin with this question here. For our VAs, some people, when filling scripts, will replace the character's name with their own. For example, replacing Miss Mary Sue with Miss Turtle Shark. This can change how certain audience members perceive the character's story or even the VA themselves. What are your thoughts on this? So our first person, give me key again. I'm gonna switch that up so that actually this randomizer really does not want to randomize. Okay, so we got Cat first.
I believe changing the name of a character that somebody um has already written a name for in the script, it could change like their actual characteristics, traits, what they look like. Sometimes people seeing, as an example, Miss Mary Sue could be like blonde hair, blue shirt, black jeans, to Miss Turtle Shark could change the appearance, the tone, the traits of the character that was already there. Um, Sometimes can be a good thing. It just shows that you have a more creative side, but sometimes you just want to keep the original script to the original script. That's how I feel.
And it's interesting you say that because I mean, some VAs out there do have, it's not even just their profile pic, but some of them have almost like a little character for their channel that represents them. So that's actually kind of an interesting thing to think about. I know actually one of our previous podcast panelists, Prince Cairo, actually does this with his thumbnails. If you see his channel, he has here he commissions a lot of artists to do art of his character essentially, and all of his thumbnails are just him over and over again for different characters. So it's kind of an interesting, I guess, way to look at it, where you almost become the character yourself in that sense, or at least to your audience. Yeah, so yeah, Kylie does that. I remember Kylie does that. Green Forest does that too. I've seen that as well. So there's a lot of examples out there. Next is Kanade.
Yeah, I definitely think it changes things. Like that part is true. Just like inevitably, when an actor takes on a role of like any kind, they can get associated with like the role that they play. I also do think though it can definitely be used like as a tool of some sort, especially if you want to like differentiate your characters from one another, like giving them another name really helps like create like a new slate for that character. Whereas like if you insert your own name into scripts, it also kind of allows people to kind of feel like there's a continuous storyline or even like a character that keeps getting added to even when you like only have one shots. So yeah, that's what I think.
It's like the script extended universe. I always like to joke and say, like, hey, and I was talking several years ago with Alvar Scripts about this, where we joked because we do have some characters that we wrote together, and we just joked that, like, what if all of our characters are in the same universe and just have everybody figure out where one slots in the timeline? Just confuse everybody. But yeah, let us move on. Key is next.
This is a tough one for me because the way I tend to write my scripts for people is it's a very defined character. So in switching out the character's name for their own name or whatever name they change it to, it fundamentally changes the character that I placed in the script. So it's whereas I also know that there are scripts where it's intended to be that way too. So it's kind of I'm of two minds where it's both disrespectful and also like in line with what was intended for the script. But it kind of depends on the script itself and the intention of the writer when they made the script in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing to consider, because in my head, I guess this question was more not necessarily that they change out the character's name, but that, like, say for instance, you have, or the writer wrote down like insert name here or something, and you just add whatever name you wanted. But yeah, really, I think that that's a really good point for the ones that actually did have a name for themselves. That and a lot of times there might be a narrative reason why that character is named the way they are. I actually have a couple of scripts as well where like I really wouldn't want them to change the name of the character because like for instance one of mine where they describe what the name means and it doesn't make sense if you change that, right? Like that person's name doesn't mean whatever my character's name actually means. Um, but yeah, that is a good point where sometimes unless the writer does take I don't want to say unless the writer does allow people to change up names, it can be considered disrespectful to them, especially because, you know, they didn't say that you were allowed to do that in the first place. So if they don't mention it in their terms of use or whatever, please reach out to your writers who write all these very lovely scripts that they share to the community before you make any changes to them, because sometimes people aren't okay with that. Oh my gosh, where's my list? My randomizer. Okay, yeah, so last is ARC.
Yeah, for name replacements, I think it's largely a matter of context. So, you know, like if somebody changes Stephen to Sebastian because they knew a Stephen and they hated him, you know, like I don't feel that's particularly unless there's something specifically in the story about the name, that's fine. But if you're changing it from Stephen to, you know, Ark, like if it's in the example of the question, you know, Ms. Turtle Shark, like if you're making it about the VA, now it's fourth wall breaking. You're reminding the listener that this is being acted, and I don't like that. So I'm not a fan of that part. I think changing a name can be beneficial to the story if the VA is attached to something. That's fine, but as far as tying it back to some real world thing, it's not for me.
Oh, I'm hearing that I'm cutting out for people. Can people hear me?
Yeah.
You were cutting out a tiny bit, but you're good.
Okay, that's good. Just let me know in the chat if it keeps happening. I'm not sure what's going on there. I can't hear from my end.
Seems more solid now.
Okay. Hopefully it's not internet cutting out. Please don't. I'm the one hosting.
Chad actually made a good point on this too.
Mm-hmm.
The background of the VA may inform the respect that they then give the script. The difference between professional background versus not really having that.
I think that ties in just in general, especially for a lot of newer VAs too. I've noticed this with a lot of newer VAs where, especially when they're coming in and doing scripts for the first time, they don't take whoever's, I guess, script writers, in terms of use into consideration. Sometimes, you know, we call them out and say like, oh, I'm new to this. And I've heard this so many times from VAs. Just starting out, they're like, oh, I didn't realize that I had to do this. I'm like, yeah, like, you gotta make sure that you're respecting the wishes of your writer if, you know, you're not the writer yourself. So, it can definitely make a difference. So, let us move on to our next question. If I can find OBS, I have too many things open. Again, from Turtle Shark. This is for our writers, so everybody here. If you had to adapt one of your stories to another medium, TV, movie, books, etc., which would you pick and how would you go about it? So let me grab my randomizer. And trying to make sure that I actually have randomization here. Key is first.
Do I have to pick just one?
No, you don't. You can pick however many you want.
Because I actually started working with another writer more recently on a project, and I'm not sure how much information they want me to give, so I'm going to leave it at that. But we went so far into the world of the story that we realized that we had made it so much bigger than just an audio script, and we were kind of joking about the amount of work that we'd put into it. We could probably make it into a book and a TV show and a movie because of how much work we were doing. So I think with the right story, I wouldn't mind trying to adapt it into a little bit of everything else so that the story gets out there and can reach more people as a result.
See, that's very ambitious, honestly. I'd love to see it.
I guess the reason why I do all of this in the first place is just spread stories, because stories gave so much to me, so now I'm giving stories back to everybody else. So the more people I can reach, the more I can say that I actually did what I set out to do.
I'm gonna say is preach. I hope that's why everybody's here, honestly. We're all here to share stories. That's what we do. So next up is Kat.
So I was thinking really hard on this one. I think what I would go on is the movie Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I'd like to change it up a little bit where you have your own character put into the movie, and throughout the movie or throughout the story that you're writing is um give me a moment.
No worries.
um that instead of there's a lot of just action and fighting, there's some comfort in the middle of it. In the middle of the story, there's just a lot of comfort that every character needs. That is what I'm about. I love bringing comfort and stories to everyone. I love making sure everyone feels safe when reading my stories. When it comes to Home for Peculiar Children, I would want it to change just a little bit. So there's a lot of comfort. There's still action, there's still problems, there's a lot of plot and all that, but there's just enough comfort that you can sit down and watch it for hours. And that's how I would put it into a script. You could just sit there and read it for hours, feeling comfortable and feeling safe to read.
Like, sounds like very adaptive to the listener in a sense, I guess, is what I'm getting from it.
Yeah.
Just kind of like different, but everybody kind of gets something out of it.
Right.
Let's see. I'm actually next for this. So, I have some experience with this actually. um, and Arca can actually attest to this because he was actually a part of it in the first place. And I've sort of talked about this where I've been working on like a ROM hack for a Fire Emblem game, and Ark was actually one of the voice actors that I brought in for one of the trailers. So I've already kind of started doing this. Um, the story that I wrote for that, I initially had the idea of turning it into a script because I didn't think it would ever become a game itself. But I'm very happy to have got a team on board to work on it. So we've been doing a lot to progress with it recently. Another thing that I really wish I could do, and the problem is that it's just so time consuming. I attempted to do this a long time ago, but my very first script ever that I wrote is actually based on an idea that I had for a webcomic. And I tried to start working on this webcomic forever ago, but I felt like, I don't have the energy to draw everything here. I need way more resources than I actually have currently. I can't do backgrounds consistently enough. It just burnt me out trying to do all of it. And I really wish that I did have the energy to do this or a team to help me out with it. But unfortunately, it's kind of a pipe dream right now, honestly. And but it's something I wish I could, but I feel like it works really nicely with the visuals because there are certain things in storytelling I think work better as visuals, not even just sound or words, just visuals. And I can't necessarily tell the story that I want to tell without those visuals. And who knows, maybe it'll happen one day, but guess we'll see. So, next up is apathy.
Hello. We're still talking about like the um different mediums, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Just making sure. I kind of zoned out. Anyways, so I've this is pretty easy for me. Definitely like a visual novel or something of the sort. Um, if not that, then a book, or because that's just like the easiest resource for me. Like I can just like write stuff down, and that's I've done it before. Um, kind of crazy, but if I had all the resources in the world, I'd love to do a musical, which I think would be really fun. But yeah, probably visual novel would
I
be
like
my
that idea. Musicals are fun. Honestly,
I would love to
I'm
do
a
a
big musical
musical.
That would be so terrifying for me. Oh my God.
If I could, I would love to, but I don't think we're really in in that scope right now, but maybe one day.
fan. You
Yeah.
kind of need to get yourself someone who can do music if you can't do
Yeah.
it yourself. I mean, some people out there can, honestly. There's some very talented people out there
Yeah,
who have that ability to write music and stories through music.
absolutely.
So,
But yeah, visual novel has always been my like main, that's kind of the format that I write in. So that's yeah, that's my take.
I should add visual novel to my list too, honestly. It's kind of one of those where, like, again, it's kind of like scripts in a way. It's just with a little more artwork. And maybe not as time consuming as something like a webcomic. Let's see. Next up is Arc.
Yeah, which I think from the perspective of wanting to give people what they want, I'd probably go with the reluctant mafia boss guy because that had the most traction. But if it was up to me, I did a multi-part thing with Turtle that was written by Liam. Liam writes stuff, and we had such a blast writing that story, and we ended up coming up with so much more lore for the story that could result in a movie. That would be what I'd want to do. I don't know if anybody would watch it, but yeah. Plus, it would be rated R, so you know.
Can't put that on YouTube, unfortunately.
Right, right. Yeah, the whole angel demon thing, you know, wanting to you know go at each other in all of the different ways that that phrase could be interpreted. Right. That was a lot of fun.
Okay. What's going on? No, it says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Is this still working for you guys?
Yeah, I still see it.
I don't know
Yeah,
why
it's
it's
still
giving,
going for
why
me.
is it giving me that error.
I still see it.
Okay, hopefully it doesn't cut out. That's happened a couple times before. uh, anyway.
I think you're wrong, by the way, Ark. I think a lot more people would watch it than you think.
Yes, we have a lot of fans
Yeah.
here.
Oh, that was so much fun.
See, we got some people in the chat. Alrighty. Lastly, we got Kanade.
Oh, if I could pick any, I would definitely also say movie. I just think it's been really cool, like going from writing a story or script and just getting to see it like come to life and getting to hear how that sounds and like all the voice actors and sound effects and even like music coming together. But I think it would be like totally different to like see it visually. As for how I would go about that, I have no clue. But like, yeah, definitely a movie for sure. I just think it would be like so different to see it visually since like you're so focused on like the audio aspect, if that makes sense. But yeah.
Gotta start bringing live actors into this community. Act out all the scripts. It's like turn it into like a big TV series with our zero budget, unfortunately. But you know, it's a dream. So let us move on to the last turtle shark question, which again is basically for everybody. We're gonna just have questions that are for everyone for some of these. It's just for our VAs that kind of get stuff for themselves. So the question is, what's the easiest and most difficult part of writing / voice acting for you? Let's see if I can get this randomized. Okay, Arcus first.
I'm sorry, did you say me? You cut out a little bit there.
Okay. I don't know why it's cutting off. Unless it's my OBS doing it, maybe. Because I have noise suppression there. Maybe I'm not close enough to my mic.
Well, I think, the most difficult part for me, the one that I don't want to do is editing. Like editing the audio once it's recorded. The work of getting it from the recorded state to the finished state that I can upload, that's if I could pay somebody else to do that, I would do that. Absolutely. And as far as easiest, I think coming up with the ideas. Once the idea takes hold, it just multiplies, just bubbles up and grows like a cancer until it's got a story that I want to voice.
I don't want to compare it to that. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting comparison, honestly. It's like my work is unstoppable in not the best ways.
That's right. That's right. It's going to take over everything.
So let's see. Kanade is next.
Yeah, I definitely also think the easiest part for me is like the idea generation part of the writing aspect, because I've always like loved writing and I did it a lot more before I started on YouTube, so the writing aspect definitely came a lot easier to me, much more than the voice acting part. Yeah, I actually have like a really long list of videos I want to do because I just feel like I get inspired from like a lot of things like movies, books, other audios on YouTube, like even real life experiences that like my process of like writing, recording, and editing just can't really like keep up speed wise. So that's definitely the part I think I struggle with the least. But as for the most difficult part, probably like getting emotions right for voice acting. I only got experience like acting 2-ish years after starting, so I really had no experience like at all going into it, and like really struggled with that because I'll just like listen back and just realize the emotions I did on this line or like on another line didn't like line up with how I thought it would sound when I was writing it. Like, why is she voicing this emotion here when there's like been no build up, or like I don't get why she's feeling this emotion here when like nothing's like prompted that feeling. So things like that. And I think hopefully I've gotten a little better. I just still think there's like so much that I could learn, but I think that's probably what I'm like the most nitpicky about with my stuff. But yeah.
I guess it's gonna just continue to be a learning experience overall. I think that applies to everyone, honestly. That's just a thing. And I feel like it's kind of a similar thing like what you're saying. It's like where you, I guess, voice it yourself and say like, why did it turn out this way? Like, why isn't it not how I envisioned it before? Like, even if it's just yourself, I think you can even apply that to writing too, where you think like, wait, that's not how I wanted it to turn out. But I guess once it's out there, it's out there. Just kind of live and learn as we go. Uh, Next up, we got apathy.
Sorry that took a second. Hold on. Give me 1 moment. Oh yeah. So sorry, I'm kind of echoing right now. I'll fix that in a second. Um, for writing, the hardest part is getting like the the middle stuff figured out. Like I'll have my idea and I'll have like a beginning and end maybe, but buffing up that word count is really the toughest part for me.
That makes me think of that whole like step one uh something and then like question mark, question mark, question mark in the last step of the
Yeah.
same basically for every script.
Like
I
when
know the
writers
feeling.
are
I
like,
know the feeling.
when book authors talk about how the hardest part of writing is actually writing it.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of us just get those ideas in our heads and you have this very specific vision in your mind, but then putting it down into words, like, how do I get to this one scene? And I think that's actually a cool thing about the ASMR medium, where you can just write that one scene that you had in your head and not just a full story sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't need to have all the build up. Like, I can just imply that there was beforehand. It's kind of cheating, but that's it's a fun kind of cheating.
Yeah.
And next up, we got Kat.
So what is the easiest and most difficult part for writing and voice acting? Writing, the most difficult is that you can be good for 1 second and then in another you're in writer's block and you're in this writer's block for hours and hours and you try to get out of it, but you just can't. So sometimes what's easiest for me is I would go to like a different setting, like a coffee shop, like I explained, a hill and a meadow of flowers. I like to sit there, and it actually helps me with the writing. Um, Voice acting, I tend to lose my voice a lot due to me working uh, with children. So I use my voice a lot. So voice acting for me is sometimes difficult because I can lose my voice. And when there's a particular date that I want to set out an audio, I can't record because I've lost my voice. Um, Editing is sometimes difficult, but I've actually been able to edit a lot of my audios. I do ambiance audios and I edit those. Editing is not really hard for me. It's actually very easy for me. Um, so yeah.
That's an interesting one, since we're hearing a lot of different things. Some people just find editing easy, some find it hard. I guess it just really depends on, I would say, like the preference of your process, I guess.
Yeah, another thing for the voice acting is confidence. When there's a particular script that I find, I have to have the confidence to record the script, and sometimes I don't have it, and it's sometimes disappointing.
It's like the consistent theme for this podcast. You gotta have confidence, guys.
Yeah,
Everything we do.
confidence.
See if we can answer more questions, but you gotta have confidence. Every
Yeah.
Fake it
single
till you make it.
like fake it till you make it.
Confidence, what's that?
Like apparently it's something we need, right?
Something other people have that we pretend to have.
Some
Yes.
people we pretend to have. Everyone else is saying they have it, right? But do they?
Fake it till you make it.
So alrighty. Next up, we got Key.
This is a difficult question for me.
It's a very difficult question.
I guess the easiest part for me is idea generation. Because in a different ASMR community, there was a joke about my list, because my list would just infinitely grow over time to the point where I think it's sitting at 650 ideas. And that's even with me removing ideas.
Well, that's just a couple days, right?
Don't do that. Don't remove the ideas. You never know what you're gonna have. What you're gonna need
Well,
them. You know.
What I mean by remove them is like, hey, I've done this idea, so I'll move it down to a different list where it's like this has been done. not like erase the idea type removal. I guess the most difficult part for both writing and VA is focus. I really struggle to focus because of various reasons, but like with VA, I hate the sound of my own voice, so focusing on editing is a struggle. As I already said previously, sometimes I'll focus way too much on what I'm saying, and that kind of destroys the consistency of the voice I'm trying to use for the character. And just little things, essentially, in terms of focus, really detract from my ability to do both scripts and EA. So
You
I
mentioned
guess
that. I've heard all those other stories where people end up hearing like stuff in the background in their recordings, and they're like, "No, I have to redo it again." I always hear like birds or cats or something. something, or dog
That's the
in the
worst.
background.
Yeah, there have definitely been times where I've been recording and someone decides to street race down the street. So you can hear just the roar of the engine in the audio, and it's like, God, yay.
I just imagine a fantasy setting and just hear this car in the background. It adds to a some there's a term for it. What is that word? Where when you have things outside of their time periods. Yeah,
Anachronisms.
Anachronisms. There we go. I use this word also in that post that I made for this channel. I was like, what's the word again? Yeah, anachronisms. You never know. Sometimes.
Pat made a good point too. Perfectionism is a part of it. It's like, oh, this little bit is not great, so I have to re-record the entire thing now. It tends to be the way I think about it sometimes. So I've had to get to a point where it's like, this is good enough. I'm not confident in it, but I will let my listeners judge it instead of trying to judge it myself.
Right.
I feel like
especially because like trying to re-record one line, it's difficult to get the flavor of your voice to line up with the voice around it. Mm-hmm. Like whatever reason that is, I'm not exactly sure why that is. Whether it's like mic proximity or something like that. Just re-recording one line often doesn't sound right. You've got to like expand it out and get a section so that it blends better. It's really annoying. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you say the flavor of your voice?
Yeah.
I think I know what you mean by that. Yeah, like I've heard it.
Yeah.
Where sometimes, like I've seen this before, where like when people record afterwards, it just sounds like a totally different person.
Right. Right.
Yep.
But I feel like it's very common. I hear this a lot from VAs where they say, just I keep listening to myself and I keep feeling like I did it wrong, so I start doing it again. And at that point, they just get burnt out.
Yeah, it makes editing a process, especially when you're trying to add in sound effects too, because then you're like, wow, this sound effect sounds fantastic, and then there's my voice. And it just doesn't fit with this sound effect. But like Ark said too, there's definitely times where I'll like re-record a line and then I'll try to listen back, and it'll be like, it feels like my voice dropped a pitch for the second line, and it's like, well, this doesn't line up, so I might as well just re-record the entire thing, because I'll just keep re-recording until it's all mismatched and got to do the whole thing over again.
Yeah, it's at that point, some people will decide, hey, I'm just going to scrap it entirely. I feel like it's not worth it. Sometimes they just kind of put it out there, even if it's not perfect. Like what you said, it's good enough, right? And live and learn.
Yeah.
I'm the last person on this list. I am very surprised that no one said the most annoying or hardest thing is coming up with tags and titles. I hate that so much. I'm so bad at it.
I love doing
I swear,
it.
like every time I have my VAs come up with better titles than me, I'm like, why didn't I call it that? You guys come up with way better titles.
I love doing tags. It's so much fun.
I hate it. Like it's just not my thing.
We can like switch, and like I can do your tags and titles, so like you don't have to.
And just do the tags and titles. Oh my gosh, but yeah. I was actually gonna make a comment about what Key was saying before, for myself, my own process, where I have my own little Google Doc with a bunch of ideas that I throw in stuff to, and that's where I get my script ideas from. And so it's kind of the same thing. I just got this big like Google Doc, and I just go down listening. Which one sounds good today? I'm gonna go down to my little Google Docs grocery store and pick out what I'm gonna do for the week. And then instead of actually removing those ideas, I just highlight them and say, yeah, I already did this. That's just how I do things. But yeah, and I guess in terms of easiest, like to me, it actually is writing the script itself, oddly enough. Right, where I feel I just get into a certain groove, and then the words just kind of come to me. Maybe ending the script sometimes is a little bit challenging because I know what I want to do, but I don't know how to, I guess, necessarily end what I'm trying to do sometimes. And some people, it's like, oh, like, well, the beginning and the end is the easiest for me. Like, how do I do the middle part? But for me, I feel like the middle part is generally easier. I don't know why. Sometimes. Um, but yeah, let us move on to our next question. That was our last one from Turtle Shark. We have one from Time Raft, who was also a previous panelist, who also joined us for the anniversary stream last time, a couple months ago. So this is for everyone. What other ways do you express your creative side? I feel like we slightly might have answered this to an extent in a previous question, but if y'all want to add more to it, that's fine. Let me randomize this properly because this thing really doesn't like to randomize people properly. Cat first.
My way to express my creative side is writing songs. I love writing songs, drawing, painting, doing chalk on the sidewalk, making ambiance.
Yeah, it's a lot, honestly. It's a lot of
Yeah,
different things. It's like, and I feel like arguably, you could, oh no, am I cutting off again? Maybe it's because I'm not next to my mic. I keep moving.
Sounds okay now.
I keep moving where I am. I feel like it's the noise suppression, but I feel like if I turn it off, you're gonna hear like the sound of my laptop or something. It's gonna be a little wonky.
you're good.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. Anyways, let me go back to what you were saying, Kat, about how I guess you have a lot of interesting things that you could add, even to your scripts in a way, being like the ambiance. I actually like that idea where like I guess you record ambiances then, or just make your own.
Um, I do ambiance. I make ambiance like from I forgot what website it was, but like I use it to make like little different sounds ambiances, and then I'll like post it on the YouTube channel because I like making sure everyone else is comfy and having great vibes.
All the vibes.
All the vibes.
Let's see. Next up, we got apathy.
A lot of the time, I for my creative side, I do writing outside of script stuff. Um, like stuff that I actually did before scripts. I've always loved writing. It's one of my like biggest passions, and people think I'm good at it. So, but I I've written. I want to say I've written a novel because that sounds like big and fancy, but I'm almost done with a novel for one of my characters in a series that I'm writing, and that's been very fun creatively. Um, I earlier I said that I don't really do art, and that was kind of a lie because I do, but I'm not very good at it. But I I try to draw sometimes. I try to get my characters down on paper or digitally. I don't draw on paper a lot, but I do stuff with clay. Um, what else do I do? Because I'm a very artistically minded person, so I know that's not it, but those were the first things that came to mind. So
I mean, it's nice seeing, or at least hearing from people saying that they do different kinds of art because, I mean, it's totally different from the script medium itself, but still, again, interesting artistic expressions.
yeah.
some cool stuff. I'm kind of wondering what everyone else is going to say now that they all have these crazy hobbies that are going to be interesting. Let's see. Arc is next.
I think the whole voice acting thing is really like the most creative thing that I've gotten into of late. I like making things. So like I finished my basement. I like designing things out of Legos and then going online on the Lego marketplace and buying the individual pieces that would be needed to make that thing. I like playing video games where you make large, complicated structures and things like that. So, as far as close to that kind of touchy-feely art world, I think voice acting is the closest to it.
I mean, you could even make arguments about like the whole building things in games. It must be like Minecraft or something similar. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of that vibe. I mean, that in itself is artistic expression. I would say.
It's a lot of fun for me being able to build stuff in games, particularly when you've got other people involved and you can both bite off different chunks. Satisfactory and No Man's Sky have been a wonderful. Spent hundreds of hours in those games.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I am a gamer myself. People couldn't tell. So I always like to hear that from more people, the types of stuff that they play. Speaking of which, I am technically next on this list. I've already said that I do also write for other things. It's not just scripts that I write. I am working on that game, doing both the writing as well as the artwork for it. So yeah, that's another thing I do. I draw. Still trying to get the hang of it. There's it's a challenge, especially because with the medium that I'm working with, the sizes of my canvases are fairly small. Like they're basically pixels. So, like it's already hard enough to draw something that looks good on a bigger canvas, and so when you limit that size, it's harder to get those details down. So that's been a challenge for me. Otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I do different forms of writing and drawing. So let's see. Kanade is next.
This is a fun question. I really, really love music. I started the piano when I was 5 and like picked up the trumpet when I was like in 5th grade, so like around 11 or 12, but yeah, it's probably one of the biggest parts of like who I am. And I've only like composed for some classes, but other than that, it's really just fun to like play too. So I think that's definitely, aside from this, probably one of my biggest, I don't know, creative outlets.
I was gonna say maybe we should make that musical we were talking about. We got the musician here. I used to actually sing way back in the day, but I do not. I've had like it's been like over a decade. I am well out of practice. But that would be kind of funny, right? It's like let's get our collab group ready, make that musical happen. Let's see. Last up, we've got Key.
I mean, writing and the VA stuff is my creative outlet for the most part, but I guess the other way that I do let myself be creative is in RPGs, in like tabletop RPGs, where I can craft character, work with the DM to kind of make their story, and then have fun revealing it to the other players at the table, slowly or quickly, however the DM wants to set that up.
So like the D&D type stuff, I assume. Right?
Yeah, that's D&D and similar type games like that.
And in
God, I
itself, it
love
almost is
D&D.
kind of like script writing in a sense, because you are creating those characters. It might not necessarily be like the actual words, but like you're building a setting, really. And that itself,
Right.
I feel, is, if I don't want to say as important, if not equally important to character writing, especially when you're trying to get, I guess, a certain feel down for the story you're trying to tell. So that in itself is, it is a skill.
I think the fun part about it too is like if you remove the dice aspect of it, you are essentially creating an improv audio
That's
with the other
basically it.
players and the DM.
It's a really big improv audio with several people involved.
Yep. So you're all crafting the story together because there's no
Mhm.
set path to take. Your characters set that path for you. And the DM, I guess, does that as well.
It's like ad libs the story.
Mhm.
Alrighty, let us move on to another question. I'm getting a lot of questions from previous podcast members. We got Skittles, who has 3 questions. This one's for everyone. Have you considered trying to make this your job slash career? I don't know if anyone actually has. I know some VAs particularly have made it their job, but I'm curious what to hear. I'm curious to hear what you all have to say. Fortunately, I am first on this, though. For me, no. It's never been a consideration for me. I have a full-time job that I'm happy with, and I won't disclose what I do, but it probably pays a lot better than script writing would. I'm just gonna say that. I'll just
Okay,
move on.
CIA.
No, that'd be cool. No, I actually have vaguely told people what I do. I work in healthcare, so that's all I'm gonna say, and they're gonna be like, "What?" Like, but if you actually do notice in some of my scripts, some of them do involve healthcare. That's why. That's why they do, because I actually have experience with it. But that's all you're getting out of me. Anyways, next up is Arc.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say I consider making this a full-time thing every single damn time I'm recording something. Like, you've opened a can of worms here, all right? So I work in software development, and like I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm just tired, man.
Aren't we
So
all?
yeah, and this whole thing, like besides editing collaborative audios, like besides that, everything else is fun, and I really like it. I would love to do this for a living, which is an expression I hate, but let's be honest, we got to pay bills, right? So, um, yeah, I would absolutely love to, but same situation. Like it would take a very successful multimedia venture to replace the current level of income and benefits that I have, right? And that's tough.
It's
That's tough. Plus,
unfortunate.
the YouTube algorithm is just like
Inconsistent.
fickle. Yeah, and your audience could evaporate tomorrow. So like
Mhm.
that's another thing.
I feel like another thing to consider is just how burnt out you might get from doing what you do. Because I feel like if I had to write every single day, just writing, I would not enjoy it as much as I do. That's
Sure.
just me though. Maybe for some people
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah. Well, I think if you can gain some modicum of success, that like you can start to outsource some of the bits of it, like pay somebody to make my audios and pay somebody to kind of curate my backlist and all this stuff. So yeah,
But I
yeah,
guess you
that
can
would make it a
argue
lot more
like that comes
palatable.
back to, is this worth doing compared to what I get paid now with benefits,
Exactly.
and you're not sharing that income with anyone else. So there's a lot of things to
Right.
consider.
Mm-hmm.
Next up we got Key.
Um, it's a hard question because I've actually tried to do this before as a job with something that was creative in nature. I used to draw and try to put together like video game arcs and whatnot. But in the course of trying to get a degree of that, it destroyed my enjoyment of art to the point where I don't draw anymore at all. Um, so while the answer is yes, it's also cautiously no because I don't want to destroy my enjoyment in the creative side of all of this.
Pretty much like a lot of the same with with us. Where again, like it's a hobby. Like that's kind of why some of us enjoy it the way we do. Because if it was a job, it's just a job, right? I mean, some people love their jobs, right? But it's not something, I guess, that takes you out of the stress, if that makes sense. Like it's like the stress of your actual work. Let's see. Okay, next up we got Kanade.
I've definitely like I guess had those thoughts like once or twice. Like I feel like it's natural to maybe think like, oh, this could be my job from like anything that you kind of get some sort of like monetary value from. So I've definitely like had thoughts of like, what if I just put all my effort into this? But I also have like always just like loved a lot of other things and kind of had like a set idea of what I wanted to be like career-wise even before like the channel came about. So honestly, I've never like considered it realistically. Like, I mean, I really like what I'm in school for right now, so like, I guess only a couple thoughts here and there, but like nothing too intense or like realistic, I guess.
Just seems like in general consistently, but I guess we still have two more people here who can answer. Kat is next.
Besides the main job that I have, yes, I actually am considering this to be like a little side job, because yes, gotta pay bills. So I do a lot of commissions. I do script commissions, audio commissions, I do editing commissions because people don't like to edit, so I find enjoyment in it, so I do it. I do thumbnail commission, poem commissions, so I do a lot of commissions, but in all of it, I enjoy it really. So yeah.
I'm actually curious now because of how this community is set up. Like, do you like this is more just a question for you, Kat. Do you find
Mhm.
it more challenging to get commissions when a lot of people out here post their content for free? I guess like because if like, you consider that to be, I guess almost like I don't want to say competition in a way, but sort of like that.
Not a competition. I mean, if you want to put it out there for free, put it out there for free. I mean, sometimes it is challenging, but it's nothing to be upset or angry about. Like you get what you get. Like if people want it for free, it's much easier for them and it's understandable. Uh, but sometimes it is a little bit challenging. But I keep my head up high and I keep doing it.
And I guess there also is that consideration where it's like, what if I wanted to have something specifically from this person? I really like that person's writing style. So I guess you got that going for you in a way, or
Yeah.
anyone who does commissions.
Yeah.
And let's see. And last we've got apathy.
Yes. Okay. So have I considered it? Have I considered doing this for like a full job? I mean, in a perfect world where like everything worked out, that would be great. But I've considered doing like commission in the future, but I mean like full-time job, not really. Like it's for me, it's a passion thing. And also I kind of worry that if it became my full-time job, like would that take the joy out of it? Like, because I know that's something a lot of people struggle with when they make something that they love, like their job. Um, which not fun. But I I like the idea, but it's not really realistic or um, like in the cards for me for like full time. But we'll see how that
We all
goes.
just gotta win the lottery, guys. We
Yeah.
can do everything we want to do.
Or we could rob a bank in Minecraft because
See, I have
this
my
is
villain
public.
scripts, it's like, I'm on board.
Yeah.
It's like I am an
Let me join
apologist.
this.
to the villains.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let us move on to the next Skittles question. I believe this one is for VAs. Yes, that is correct. It has been a while since we had just one for VAs. So, do you enjoy collaborating and talking with writers? The first person is Kat.
Yes, I absolutely love collaborating because I like to see everyone's point of view or tone on how they take the characters. Talking with writers is absolutely amazing because as a writer myself, I like taking advice from other writers and getting to know how they do things, getting to know um what their style is, and it's an absolute enjoyment. I like getting to know others, getting to know people I'm collaborating with, getting to know every VA or every writer. It's an absolute delight.
That's great to hear. I hope the rest of our VAs feel the same. Well, see, like, watch somebody tell me no. Okay, so next up is Kanade.
I really like seeing, I don't know, anyone's like thought process or like writing process. I think it's like really interesting to see like how different people and minds work to like create like the same type of like end product. I haven't really like gotten the chance, I guess, to like fully collaborate like with another writer. Like I've planned out like an entire series with Kyoko before, like once, but not actually like written alongside someone. But on the channel on our channel we had like a script competition once, and it was like really fun to like read a bunch of people's scripts and kind of like work with someone on a script wise for a change. So I definitely think it's something I want to do more in the future, and like yeah, super fun.
We also have opportunities here in the Discord, both of the events, and something I've been really trying to push as well for other people to do is having the scriptwriters and the VAs coming together to do things like voice direction. So it's kind of good for both sides where, you can kind of get into each other's thought processes and see things as they're made. And you can kind of get that instant feedback, right? So I don't know if anyone else would be interested in having this more often. I know, like, again, a lot of our people here do both writing and VA work, but it's nice having opportunities here. I don't know if I should make like a because we have so many channels is the problem. And I feel like it's technically part of like the collaborator channel. Um, Something like that, maybe to have someone come in to ask for a VA or a writer to, I guess, join up to do voice direction or something similar. But
Please collab with me. Please, 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 please.
you can do that. You definitely can. We have our little we have people who would be down for that, honestly.
Hello, I'm Kat.
See, Knott's in here too. Yes, he and I have actually worked together on some of those. We have one on this channel actually, showing what the process looks like. So maybe other people might be interested in doing that. So anyways, Key is next.
I'm trying to think if I've ever actually like talked to writers other than one person that I'm working on that project with. I don't think I have. But going off the experience of working with the one person, it's fascinating to see how different the writing process can be, and how much I enjoy writing with someone else, because my thought process is very different from their thought process. So something that I'll think of, they won't, and something that they'll think of, I won't, which then improves the overall quality of what's being worked on. And I would hope that that's kind of how it works every time writers are talked to. As for collaboration, I really enjoy lending my voice to other people or like helping them complete scripts with my voice. So I guess I like collabing. I don't think I've ever done a really big collab as of yet, so I don't know if doing like 1 or 2 lines counts overall.
I mean, I think it counts, honestly, if it's part of a greater whole. I guess what you mean is more of like a greater involvement in it, in the entire
Yeah,
process.
it's usually like, hey, I need, a
Hmm.
couple of lines, and I record the lines, send them to them, fix any issues that might have arisen, and that's pretty much the extent of my involvement.
I think that might be a little interesting to have more often, not necessarily as a hey, VA requests the script, but having a VA work directly with the writer in developing
Mhm.
something like some sort of concept. I feel that would be a little bit more interesting to kind of see where that goes. I guess we would maybe have more opportunities here in the Discord for that. But again, it's more like a collaborative thing or the collaborations channel. So we do technically have that already. Okay, so last up we have Arc.
Simply yes. Being able to collaborate on the creation of a script with someone has been remarkably rewarding on a few different occasions. Now I'll qualify that with saying that I think only once have I produced an audio that was the direct result of working with a dedicated writer. And I've had a handful of times where I've worked with someone who's written and voiced. But I've also started working with another writer on an audio that has yet to see the light of day. And, life just gets in the way. And I think that's probably what I'd like to add to this conversation is just like any kind of collaboration, whether it's vocal or writing, it stretches out the timeline for the work by a vast amount on pretty regularly. Not that that's bad. It's just that you need to factor that into your schedule, right? If you're looking to produce something for tomorrow and you're looking for help on writing the concept that you have, it's too damn late. You started too late, right? So you've got to get that whole ball rolling way earlier when you want to work with somebody in general, but particularly for that creation, like that idea phase. Yeah, got to get that started way early. But it is remarkably valuable to get all those different ideas swirling around. I think you end up with a much more polished product. If you both agree on where something will go, it'll be much more mature in its final form. So yeah, love it.
So interesting that you do bring up I guess, the concern of timing essentially and making sure that people have, I guess, I don't say just time, but being able to work on a schedule essentially, especially with more people involved. We have had several instances in this Discord where we've had the big collabs. I mean, I was part of one. We had our big 13-person collab where we had 7 VAs and 6 writers. I know that there was also that group with Mackenzie Amazing who had that really massive Nutcracker collab way back. um, Essentially had to set things up several months in advance to get all of it to work. And I mean, it works out in those cases if you have somebody on board to direct that. So like I took that into my own hands with our big villain project that we did. Like you really just need to have somebody organizing things and making sure that things get done, people do things on time so that things don't stagnate, right? Because it's a lot of people working on this and you don't want people to fall behind and say, hey, like we had to cancel this project because one person didn't want to do whatever that they needed to do, right? So it's definitely a challenge, and I feel like you kind of need a group of trusted people. And I mean, technically, that group we just kind of cobbled it together from anybody who was interested in joining. But So it's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and yeah, but it really comes down to that organization and just
Yeah.
getting people to do what they need to do.
And the longer a project goes on, the better the chances of some outside things coming in and screwing things up. I mean, life happens,
That's why I'm just gonna say, like, if anyone wants to work with me and I'm the person directing things, like, you're gonna hear me hounding you constantly. I was doing this
which
so
is
much with
probably
people
good.
and saying, like, you need to get this done by this date. I'm gonna get into your DMs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there's a benefit to that, but it's, yeah, there are expectations.
Yeah. And, I had a long running series with Ramble King, and unfortunately, like the end of the series has not happened because he got out of the game. And, we labored over each episode so much that, it would take a couple of weeks to make, one thing. And because of that, like it took too long. Basically, it outlived itself.
At that point, I kind of wonder, it's like, do you grab another person to bring onto the project to replace them? Because I mean, sometimes it's very challenging to do that, especially in our medium, because I feel it's already a challenge anyways in big budget productions, trying to find somebody who can, especially for VAs, like sound like that person. And I feel
Yeah,
like it's
yeah,
even near impossible to do that in ASMR
yeah.
RP.
I would certainly consider it, but they've got to be Scottish. So I think that narrows the field.
Yeah, it just makes things so challenging. It's kind of why when we have these sorts of big projects, you gotta, I guess, set up expectations for a specific timeline and fit that timeline because you know that people might end up bowing out at a certain point. I think we did ours over a period of a month, which is it's pretty fast, honestly, because I've seen some of these projects go on for several months. So I guess, yeah, again, just reiterating, get those schedules down and hound people, annoy people enough to continue going.
Yeah, yeah. You got to hound people to keep it on track.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, I really should not be taking over these questions. That's the best. I get too much into this. Let's try to bring it back to everyone else. So our last Skittles question, this is for everyone. What's the story behind a script or audio you wrote? Why is it special to you? Oh no, see, I'm going to take over this question too myself. I'm going to try to find out where I'm like the last person to talk. Okay, here we go. Okay, back to Arc, actually. Here you go. You're first.
I think I've drawn inspiration from so many different places for so many different audios. I've had several different ones that were from a line in a song. I've had listener suggestions that were tremendously popular. I think the one that was most special to me was probably the first one that I thought about. And literally that was me talking to myself in the car driving to and from mountain biking, right? And not like where it was recorded, but where it was conceived, right? And when I walked up to the mic and recorded it, I didn't have like a final script. I had the outline, much of it written out, the important parts, and being able to see that completed and posted to YouTube. It ended up being the second one I ever posted on YouTube because it was easier to complete a different one first. But to see that go out and see people listen to it, that was pretty special, honestly. It was pretty neat.
Actually sounds really nice. Just kind of having something that comes to mind like while you were doing something else. Like especially just I don't want to say like totally unrelated in a way. And it just kind of comes to you that way.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, we got Cat next.
I think the script that I most adore most that I wrote was called Warm Paws and Tender Hearts. I wrote this right after a friend lost a pet of theirs. And my goodness. And basically, this script is about a friend comes over and brings you snacks, and it's about comfort, hugging, telling them it's going to be okay because they just lost something that was a part of them. And it actually was a big thing for me to write, because it meant so much to me because I've lost a lot of pets, and seeing someone who I care about lose someone or something, even as close as a pet, kind of got to me. So I kind of wrote this for them, but I also was like writing this for everyone who has ever lost a pet because I know it's hard and sometimes you just need the reassurance.
I think that goes back to what you were saying before about almost like individualizing that comfort for people. I actually really like that. You do that for people. I think it really kind of adds the flavor to, I guess, who you are as a writer slash VA when you tailor it to specific people.
Yeah.
So definitely props to you for that. So let's see. Next up is Key.
There was a game that I was a part of. It was the first time that I tried out the system and whatnot. And it ended up being crap, honestly. But I got two pretty fantastic friends out of it, and their characters supported mine throughout it. So I really wanted to make an audio based around those three characters, and continue their story from where it kind of left off in the game after it was kind of brutally cut short. So I created I'm trying to remember the title of the audio. The Librarian Vampire, I think, or Vampire in a Bookstore, I think, is what I called it, as a sort of continuation of their story. I did want to make it a series, but I've not done that yet.
Well, guess what, Key? You might be in luck. Next month, our Discord has the Season of Series event if you want to use that the opportunity to make it a series.
I might do that. Depends.
Ideas, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we got Apathy.
Oh, I've been waiting for this one. My heart melted as soon as I heard this question because yes. Um so I have this series and it it only has two parts so far, but it's definitely going to get more. I've just been busy and that's why there's not more. And hold on, let me check specifics. It's something that I've had in my mind for years. Like I'm a maladaptive daydreamer and that's definitely played into it. And so it's about this character named Dylan, and the series has a title, but I don't really go by the title. But it it's just been developing in my mind year after year for the past like four, maybe five. Maybe five is too much. like 3 or 4 years, I'd say. And after all that time, it's really been like coming together. And something that makes me happy is that even though it only has 2 parts so far, it's something that other people have like noticed that I've put substantial effort into. Like, I'm never gonna forget this. Recently, I got a comment on the second part of the series, and it was posted a good while back. And someone commented recently, and they said, "Oh, I was really hoping this series would get more parts because it feels so much more in depth than what we usually see." And that just made me so happy
I
that
feel like that's
someone
the dream of
realized
every
that.
writer to hear
Yeah,
that.
right. Because the whole thing with that series is I'm trying to make, like, the fact that I was able to get across that this is a distinct character with like complexity rather than just like a like one-off thing that like happens, which isn't bad, but like it gosh, daydreaming can like in zoning out, it can mess things up, but that is the one thing that it has brought me is the um not memory. Um it's at the tip of my tongue.
But yeah,
You know,
like
yeah.
again, we have opportunities to continue on the series. So I feel like in
Yeah.
your case, it makes it sound like, this is something that really needs some time to, I guess, stew in your
Yeah.
head a little bit to develop it the way that you want it to.
Yeah, I intend to continue it with season of series when that comes around because I need an excuse to.
See, we're going to give everyone an excuse. You all need to start doing series or grab something that already exists, give it more parts.
Yeah, for me, it's
Give
a lot
everyone a
of like okay, I have to get this other thing out of the way before I work on this, so I've got to keep my Tupperware like all settled. But
We're
yeah,
looking forward to seeing that, honestly. Please post
I
the
love
full
it.
series over there, by the way, not in April.
Absolutely, I will.
Yes, I will give it a read, honestly. I usually don't read people's scripts because I just don't have time. I will give that a read, definitely.
Yeah, little yap session from me.
Let's see. And next is Kanade.
Yeah, I guess the most special video, or I guess videos, is a series on my channel called the Empress series. And like the first in this series, I was like pretty happy because a lot of people just like really seem to like it. And it's kind of like the first series I really got to like flesh out and kind of think about like what I wanted to do with it like as a story. And yeah, it's so special to me because just all the effort that so many people have like put into it. Like we're currently working on part 6 or the finale right now, and it has a total of 18 voice actors, some YouTubers, some like people who auditioned to like VA for Kyoko and I's channel. But yeah, just like seeing it all come together with so many people like adding into it makes it just like really close to my heart. It definitely does get a bit stressful though, because like I'm in charge of the script and editing, and like I also voice the main character, but I feel like it's just so worth it at the end because like I totally relate to Blue talking about like timeline for big projects. Like I swear half of the messages on my Discord server for our channel is just like deadlines, like please get this in, and then when they don't, I'm like hi, like slipping into the DMs being like what's going on, and yeah.
We gotta be like that sometimes, but that's how you get things done.
Confrontation is scary, but like sometimes
It
you have
is. Confidence, guys. Remember, that is the theme of this podcast.
to.
I would love someone to just randomly come into my DMs and just tell me when the due date is. Because if you don't tell me a due date, I'm not gonna get it done.
So I was gonna, I was joking about everybody. I was like that. How with this podcast, I said, if you guys aren't here, but like 15 minutes before, I'm gonna get in the DMs. I'm gonna get in the DMs.
Just like threatening them.
Say, hey guys, remember you have to be here.
Bye.
I'll do things. You don't have to know what they are. I'll do things.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, I'm the last person, and hopefully I do not take up so much time with my answers. I'm so bad at this. Anyways, I have a very particular script that is very near and dear to me just because it ties back into something that I guess happened a very long time ago. One of my biggest friend groups that I've had for many years now, probably about 8, 9 years now, maybe even 10. I don't know how long it's been. But we all met over on GameFAQs. It's kind of a blast from the past, right? Uh, we were all part of this group, and again, back to Fire Emblem. Like, if you can tell, I'm a Fire Emblem fan. That's how we all got together through this big, like, create your own avatar adventure story together. We all joined up on Skype and became really good friends, and then moved over to Discord eventually. We kind of dropped the idea a while back, but while we were working on the, I guess, narrative we were coming up with, because this is a Fire Emblem story, we would come up with support conversations, which is essentially how that works for people who aren't familiar with the series, is that it's two characters if they've been on the map together, like, or like in gameplay for long enough, or if they stand next to each other enough, they'll gain like relationship points and stuff with each other, and they can have a conversation between combat, right? And so we were coming up with those conversations for our characters, and this one friend of mine and I came up with this really interesting idea, which I ended up asking him and saying, hey, can I turn this into a script? And he was super supportive about it. And that idea turned into my friend Healsy using the souls of the people they've killed script. So very, very old script that I wrote, but that's why it's so near and dear to me, and it's one of my favorite scripts, as old as it is. Like, there's a lot of things I would change about it, but pretty much it came from that friend group that I had, and it was almost like a collaborative effort when we came up with that narrative together. So it's very special to me. So let us move on. This is our last Skittles question. We are moving on to Storm Coming 8. This is for our writers, so everybody. What's your process for deciding what scripts to write? Let's see. Arc is first.
I don't think I have any specific, like, prescribed pattern for determining what to use or not. I mean, generally speaking, it's a matter of, do I like it, first off, and certainly there's a lot of things that are popular out there that I don't do because I don't like them. And then, do I think I can voice it effectively? This idea that's been posed, and do I think there's a good hook to it? Do I think it's gonna get traction, and people will feel like their time spent listening was worthwhile, right? And I guess those are kind of the big factors. Do I like it? Do I think I can voice it well? Do I think other people will like it? Yeah.
Gosh, sorry. I was just trying to talk with Connor because she has to leave soon. But we'll try to get through some of these questions quickly so you can answer them. Let me see. So actually, let's do Cat next. Yeah, Cat's next.
To be honest, this question is actually a struggle to me because, or not really a struggle, but the answer is quite interesting. Sometimes when I can't think of a title or the name for the script, or sorry, deciding what scripts to write, I like to write down a list of all the scripts that I can think of, like Friends to Lovers, murder mystery, just those type of things, and I write down a number beside them. And what I do is I grab my D&D dice and I just roll it out, and whatever number it pops up on, I get to writing that.
Honestly, that sounds like fun, just randomized, like, challenge script in a way, almost, even if I don't feel like writing it now. Like, I gotta do it.
When I'm really struggling, I mean, this is like the process. I either do a rough draft, I use Obsidian, which is like a note taker app, or I just roll the die.
I mean, however it works out for you. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna try to get to you some more questions. Kanade is next.
Yeah, I think it changes like all the time. Like first I decide on the idea and this can like come from like either me, I don't know, impulsively like being inspired by something that day or like me using an idea from like a poll I put up on YouTube or something. But like yeah, I try to pick ideas that I feel like I'm genuinely excited about and like feel like I can do a lot with just 'cause I feel like that excitement does like translate to like the quality of your work. Like if I don't like it and I like if someone else reads the script, I feel like they can tell that I like wasn't excited about it. So like I guess that's usually like my process for deciding. I don't really have like a I don't know, a strict procedure cuz it does change like when I have a pull up on YouTube or Discord or like I don't know, get an idea from like YouTube analytics, but like yeah.
That's kind of funny because I feel like from my own experience, sometimes like I'll autopilot stuff and it just turns out better for other people. And then things I work on like meticulously don't get as much traction sometimes.
I feel that.
It's so sad, but it happens. Okay, so apathy is next.
Um, Honestly, so it's kind of just a bucket we ball kind of thing. I don't I kind of just work with what I already have because I I don't really want to work on like a one shot if it like I have series that I haven't finished and like other things. So I don't want to just like start something new when I still have unfinished business. So I nowadays I kind of just work with what I already have that I haven't finished. Or if in a world where I have all my series done, um, I would look at my idea list. Um, but I I don't really have like a process. It's kind of just what makes the most sense right now. And yeah.
So it's just how we feel, right? The
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah.
Go based on the vibes. So, okay, so I'm next. Pretty much as mentioned, I do have my little Google Doc sheet that I pick ideas from. I try, and this is in big air quotes, I try to add a new idea every week, and obviously that doesn't always turn out the way I want it to. Sometimes it takes months for me to add things to my list because I don't really have a lot of other ideas. But really, it's just kind of how I feel. Again, it's the vibes, like just how I feel that day or that week, where I just say to myself, this idea sounds fun, let's do it, right? 'Cause sometimes like I kind of let ideas stew for a bit before and then I just kind of add notes over time and I think, okay, I can work with this, but it really depends. And last we got Key.
I can't really say that I have a process exactly. It kind of changes up where it's just like, you know what? I haven't written for this series in a while. Pick it up. I'm gonna do that series. Sometimes I do it like Kat said, where it just make a list, roll the dice. I'm gonna do it that one now. Sometimes it's just I really like this idea. I haven't written in a while. I'm just gonna write this now.
It's a lot of randomization for people.
Yes.
I feel like it does kind of, I don't want to say put you on the spot, but more kind of make you do something instead of putting it off. Like it might work out nicely for some people, honestly. Seems like it has been for you all. Okay, let's see. Do you have any questions that you want to answer before you leave? We can go over those first.
I don't know. Not any questions specifically, I guess. I'm good for it. Any, really.
Okay, I guess we can try to do this next one. I think it's for VAs, and we'll do our little send off after. Let's see. Okay, let me see if I can get you first from this list. There we go. I got one. There's a picture of a cat. Let me see. So yeah, this one's for our VAs. What's your process for deciding what scripts to use? And we'll let you go first, kind of thing.
I don't really know if I'm like the best person, I don't know, for this question because Kyoko and I like write like I don't know, maybe like 80% of the scripts we do, and the other ones are kind of like sent to us, and we kind of like discuss if it's like something we think I don't know fits what we like, and yeah, me and Kyoko like talk about it. But yeah, I definitely like want to actively look for scripts in the future, so I guess I'll let you guys know then. But yeah.
Oh, we'll see, right? Keep us posted.
Sure.
Let's see. Okay, Arc is next.
All right. Which sorry, we just skipped there, I think. Which one was this?
This is the what's your process for deciding what scripts to use?
Oh, I answered that already.
I mean, do you want to add more to it? If not, that's fine.
I mean, beyond the general like vibe check, I think that's probably the most important thing. I mean, maybe I can go off a moment because there are a lot of themes and tropes that are common on YouTube right now that I honestly find pretty problematic. Right. And I'm not going to go and pretend that I'm all full of virtue and, you know, but from the standpoint of like, there are people who are listening to stories that are depicting, you know, let's say unhealthy relationships, right? And it's fiction, and people are allowed to like what they like, and that's all fine. I'm not going to judge anybody for that, but it's not something that I want to promote, right? So there are a lot of concepts and stories and scripts that kind of come my way that I push out of the way pretty quickly, if that makes sense. Just from that initial vibe check thing. And I guess I don't know if anybody else wants to kick in on that, but just there's a lot of problematic stuff in my view out there today.
Yeah, I generally agree with that. And honestly, it's kind of, I'm a very mixed bag on it too, when it comes down to, I guess, what sort of content, or at least how I feel about certain content. Because, again, let's be real, like, yandere is a really big theme in a lot of these, and you're gonna get a lot of very problematic things that happen in these scripts where there's stalking, kidnapping, like murder of other characters and the love triangle or whatever. And I mean, again, some people find that to be enjoyable, others don't. Again, I think it really comes down to how self-aware you are about the content that you're putting out, making sure that you tag with correct content warnings. Just also, I guess, something I like to tell people is that I kind of treat this as almost like the equivalent of watching a horror movie, or getting on like a big roller coaster ride where you're putting yourself in a dangerous situation in a safe scenario. So technically, like, you really wouldn't want to have this happen to you in real life. I would hope not. Right? It's like, I hope you don't want to have stalkers. I hope you don't want somebody like coming into your room and putting a knife to your throat and drugging you or whatever. That's common in these sorts of these sorts of scripts or these sorts of stories. But and I feel sometimes, especially certain people, you know, they can't really distinguish the fiction from reality, and it's kind of important to, I guess, be upfront about it on both ends. I feel like maybe, again, just like a content warning or something, or just at least making note that you're not condoning what's happening here, that it's just kind of a pretend scenario. But again, like you were saying, Art, it's even then, sometimes it's iffy. I don't know if anyone else has something to add to that before we move on to the next person.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of wrap that up, like I don't want to be morality police or like trying to just something that's more innocent sounding, like trying to portray positive relationships, right? um, I think at the same time, though, that there are a lot of young and impressionable people who are consuming this content, and it's important to me that just like at least as far as the stuff that I'm putting out there, I want it to be uh, anyone who's engaging in those kinds of bad behaviors are the antagonists in the story. Like straight up, the main speaker needs to be a good guy, at least at heart.
Maybe you're talking to the wrong person, Mark, because I'm the self-proclaimed villain queen who likes to prop up my villains' romance option.
Yeah, and like that's from the standpoint of most of my audios are relationship based, right? So that colors everything very much so.
So it's not like you demonizing anyone. Like it's just like a personal boundary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I was doing content that wasn't aimed at listener and speaker being in some kind of relationship, because the vast majority of those audios are, then I think I would have more leeway there. But that's one of my things. Like, I don't want a bad guy to end up with the listener.
Yeah, and that's totally valid as like
Right.
a personal boundary.
Mm-hmm.
I think another issue is that there's really no way that we can necessarily enforce that, especially, as you said, the younger, more impressionable listeners aren't gonna just see 18 plus content and then just not click on it. Like, it's very common for them to still do it.
Very.
I mean, you're gonna see
That
this.
might even be a selling
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Like it's a selling point to them sometimes. So like, where do you draw the line essentially in this case, where like I want to make content for my older audiences sometimes and whatnot, and occasionally it's going to be the more questionable racy content, but really there's no way to be absolutely certain that those listeners should be listening to those things in the first place. So
Yeah. Well,
it's a little
in my
hard.
case, that's what Patreon is for, right?
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to our next person on this list. Key is next.
I'm not sure I have all that much to add to what's already been said.
I mean, we went off on a tangent. It was more of what's your process for deciding what scripts to use.
Yeah, I guess I try to choose what I will find fun, because if I don't find it fun, I don't think I'll put as much passion into it. I won't put as much effort into it, and that's not really something I want to put into my channel. I want to make sure that everything I'm putting out, I've done my best with, tried to put my passion into, so on and so forth. So if I read a script and it's just not clicking with me, I probably won't do it. And if I read a script and it just like it clicks and it's like I really want to do this, then provided that I'm able to follow the rules that the author or writer puts down, then I will try and do that script.
It's all about the vibes.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess, yeah, I'll skip this question too because you already heard me talk about this. Like, I already took too much time from this question, so I'll move on to Kat.
To number 2. The VA one.
Yes, the VA one.
Oh, okay. Was double making sure.
Yeah.
My process is sometimes that is like a hard, difficult, like situation to be in. So what I like to do, I like to go on Reddit. I go to Script Haven or Talking Tall Tales, and I scroll through whatever I feel is best for my mood. Um, what I feel like I have the confidence of doing, and I'll do the same thing I do with like um deciding what scripts to write. Sometimes I'll write the number down beside the like for an example, I'll find one of BlueChan's scripts and I'll put it down on a piece of paper and put it like number one next to it. And if I roll a one, then I'll do like BlueChan's script. That's just how I decide. It's just like much easier for me because citing one script to do is very difficult. Like when you want to do a lot of them.
Little fate decide situation. That's cool.
Mm.
Maybe fate has the vibes. Fate decides the vibes. Gosh, I'm thinking of like pairing this question like with the next one because again they are so similar. It's the problem. Um, I don't know if like everyone really has anything to add to it, just because even though this one is on scripts, it's the same with. There it is. Where's my OBS? Where are you? Yeah, I'll just move on to the. Well, that's not it. Yeah, basically it's like the same question. Anyways, we only have a little bit more time left, I think. With Kanade, we can try to answer this question and we'll do our little send off, I guess. So let me see, do I have it up? Okay, so last question from Stormcoming is how specific is too specific and how vague is too vague when writing details into a story, especially as it relates to both the listener, stand-in, character, and the speaker? Obviously, there are points at which you have added too many, too oddly specific details, and points where you've added nowhere near enough, resulting in blank slate characters. Where are these points? So I'll let you answer this, Kanade, first.
Yeah, whoa, I really like this question. I feel like, I don't know, you can tell it came from someone who writes. But yeah, I really do enjoy when like writers like really flesh out their characters with like unique or like really specific traits. I just feel like it makes them feel so much more like real and just like rounder. But I guess my take on it, like a general rule or thought process I have, I guess it's like, does that specific detail like do anything for that character? And like, and I don't mean like every detail has to like establish their like deep backstory or anything, but like, is that detail like contributing to like a character trait you're trying to like put emphasis on, or is like that detail contributing to like a backstory of some kind, or like, I don't know, even like foreshadowing, like things like that. Like usually if a detail for a character isn't serving like a purpose, people won't really remember you putting it in, which kind of means it's like not necessary, but yeah, I guess that's like what I think of like just talking about like is there too many details or like is there not enough? But yeah, my take on that.
So it's like the more detailed, the better. Just,
Mm,
I guess it almost kind of goes back to one of the first questions we had, where you have characters and defining traits for them, right? So I guess it's kind of a similar question in a way where,
yeah,
like, are you using that, I guess, to define those characters better?
totally, yeah.
Anyways, I think that's as much time as you have with us, right? But thank you again
Yeah.
for coming on with us, Connie. It was a pleasure having you.
No, thank you. It was so much fun. It's like really cool to like just talk about it because I feel like it's like not the most common things for like this type of content. But yeah, thank you so much. It was so much fun.
No
And like
problem.
I got to think for it and all that. Fun. Yeah.
Also, feel free to answer the questions, I guess, like in the text channel over there, the one in the server, if you feel like doing that, whenever you have time.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Yes, it was great
So
to
nice
have
talking
you
to you
all
all.
here. Bye.
Bye.
So let us continue on. Yeah, it's still going. We're here for a long time. I'm trying not to make this go on for so long, but sometimes these questions they just go on forever. Anyways, apathy is next.
Um, okay, so for details, I don't really I know what I'm trying to answer, but I don't know how I find the words. I'll just use an example that I did in a recent script. Sorry, my cat's walking all over me right now.
That's
Um,
gonna be our next panelist.
um, so recently I did a script where two characters got coffee and oh hello. Um so I was like, okay, if our speaker is gonna comment on whatever the listener is getting for their coffee, then like it can't be too specific because what if the person listening is like, that's not what I would order at all. So it can't be something like, oh, you ordered a caramel macchiato latte. I don't know how coffee works. Um, so instead of having it be very specific or very vague by just not mentioning it at all, I had it be like, instead of saying what it was, I had the speaker's character say, like, oh, I've only had that like once or twice. And then he went on to describe his own drink. So it's a very much a balance between detail and like no detail. So that's kind of how I try to do it, is less of describing the listener and more of describing the speaker is how I uh work with detail a lot of the time.
So you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I might just skip my answer later because it's basically the same thing, honestly.
My bad.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's a nice thing to hear that other people agree with that. But I guess we'll see what everyone else says. Ark is next.
Details. There's a lot going on here. I could talk about details for a long time. So I think the important thing is getting that balance right. It's so easy to get lost in details. You want the story to be immersive. You want to allow people to paint the picture in their head of what's going on, but at the same time, like, you can't get into the level of detail in an audio only production that you could with the written word or that you could with visuals, because you can't describe in detail the room that's around you. You can't describe what the expressions are on everyone's faces. Like, there's so much more. It's so much more dependent on the listener's imagination, and you really need to just drill into the things that you feel are the most important to getting that initial idea across. I guess for me, it is the difficult parts for me as far as like what to drill into. It's a pet peeve of mine for the speaker to just parrot back what the listener supposedly said as a means of illustrating what the listener said, and coming up with that level of dialogue to provide the detail of what the listener's contribution was to the conversation. That is something that is simultaneously frustrating and greatly rewarding for me. How can I confirm that I heard what the listener said without just saying the same thing back as a question, right? And that is something that some writers do. That's kind of like their style. It's not for me. And I think, beyond that level of trying to convey that without going too far and restating stuff, just making sure to stay on target as far as like the emotional focus of the story, and fleshing out, whether by word directly or by the tone or uncertainty or whatever in your voice, trying to make sure that the main story's focus is carried forward with interest, right? That's why we're there. And whether that's being approached from the writer perspective or the vocal perspective, just trying to get through the story with interest is the right level of detail.
So I really wanted to comment on this. I really like that you brought that up. The repeating what the listener says. Oh my gosh. I am like, anyone who knows me knows that I am that is like my biggest pet peeve. I hate it when people do that, because I feel, and I'm sorry to tell this to people, but I think it's very lazy when people do it. I feel like you don't trust your audience enough when you're writing your character. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can imply what someone said. You don't have to directly state it back. And honestly, I feel like sometimes it takes away the autonomy from the listener, because it's like, well, what if I didn't want to say that, right? So,
right.
Like there's just so many
opposite. Yeah. Some writers do the opposite, where they'll ask the listener a question, and then their response to it is obviously so open-ended that it didn't matter what the hell the listener said.
Yeah, and that's kind of where like it comes down to sometimes, where it's just getting that balance right, because sometimes, you know, sometimes I feel, and actually I'll get to this one when I get to my part, I guess. Well, let's move on actually to people after, and I'll add on later, because I'm the last person to go. So Kat's next.
I have to agree with someone constantly re-adding the same sentence, the same vocabulary, the same tone. I'm still working on this, because in my scripts I'm sometimes actually too specific. So I'm working on this as well. So I really I really don't have a point on this, except the part where I agree upon, if you're constantly reliving the same topic, the same words, the same vocabulary, the same tone, all of that, I can't really have an opinion on it, because I'm still learning myself.
I mean, there's honestly no problem with that. It's like, I encourage people to improve and do things. And I mean, again, like, I don't like sounding elitist or whatever and saying like, oh, like, you're a bad person for doing this, but it's just like, I feel like there's better ways to go about it sometimes, and it's good to see people being able to, I guess, give listeners enough autonomy, I guess. This is the best way I can put it.
Definitely.
Then next up, we've got Key.
I'm not sure how I slot into this question exactly, because I don't write my scripts the way a lot of other script writers do. I actually make a character for the listener, which I know some people will say is bad etiquette for the scripts that I write, but it helps me to essentially create dialogue that is, this is something that the listener character would say, or that the setup that I have made for the listener would say, and here's the response. So I can actually do a back and forth between the speaker and the listener in a way that actually sounds natural. And then it's taking that and adding enough detail to imply more or less what's going on, in addition to the sound effects. I'm still working on figuring out the correct balance of the two, because I know there have definitely been times where I've been like, hey, can someone proofread this? And they're like, this is too much. You don't need all of this. Or you need just a tiny bit more detail, is generally the feedback that I'll get, so that things make sense. or, you know, um, uh, shave off some of the stuff that doesn't need to be there.
I guess also,
So,
I was gonna say, like tying into what you were saying, it kind of even depends on the person watching, because for one person it might be, too much, and then it might be perfect for another person. So I guess where do you draw the line with the proofreading, I guess?
right. And that's kind of the balance I'm trying to find. And I think for me specifically, I can't write a blank listener character. I have to give the listener some sort of personality or some sort of trait that I can work off of. Um, so I think as a result, I have added details into my speaker characters that make it pretty obvious that the response of the listener is going to most almost always be a singular emotion, at least in the beginning. Um, for example, I have the Fey Deal series. I make the proprietor the most outrageous, smug asshole that I possibly can, and basically sit there and be like, well, you made this deal. It's your fault for not being more specific. And the outrage that the listener should feel at that, hopefully, is universal.
Let's say I really like that answer. Um, I guess I'll tie into it with my own, just because, again, I do like this idea of kind of giving the listener a personality depending on the script, because, and I feel like I've heard this a lot over on Script Haven, and I haven't seen it too much on Talking Tall Tales yet, but it's more of something that comes up on Script Haven a lot, where some people are always like complaining and saying that, like, why don't my listeners have more agency? Why aren't they the ones, talking back, I guess, quote unquote, to the speaker, right? Why are they all so meek, like, and whatnot? Because some people, again, some people enjoy that, right? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with any particular type of listener character. I think where at least my particular line is drawn when it comes to vague versus specific is you want a specific personality for the listener, because that's how they're going to act, I guess, quote unquote, when working off of the speaker's character. But don't go much into the little details, like, especially if you have something along the lines of asking, hey, what's your favorite food? Like, what do you want to eat, right? Like, I don't think that's super necessary for the character, unless, that's a big plot point or whatever. Like, just the type of food that they eat. If it's just a one-off thing, like, there's really no point in adding detail there, because again, the listener, I think that's where the listener's autonomy comes in, and you kind of allow them to say, oh, like, I would eat this, and you don't want to say, like, oh, like, I'm gonna get you chocolate or whatever, or I'm gonna give you like a steak or something, and the person listening saying, like, no, I wouldn't want that, right? Also, very sorry to my vegetarian and vegan listeners. Sometimes I'll write my scripts and have the character eat a steak or something, or meat, unfortunately. So, I guess in my fantasy settings, unfortunately, you're gonna have to eat like wyvern meat or something as a listener. It's not real, at least. But yeah, I think it really does, just kind of working what off of what everyone else was saying, that it really, there's a balance in trying to determine what is specific and what is vague, because I feel like it's important to do both to an extent, just in different ways. So let us move on to our next question. We have a question from Not, actually. This one is for everyone. What's your favorite cliche in audio role plays? The first person is going to be Key.
I don't have a good answer for this.
That's fine.
I don't really have cliches that I look for or that I listen to. It's primarily the enjoyment that someone's getting out of it, or the, I guess this goes back to the parroting thing, where it's like, does this feel like a real conversation to me, where I'm being treated like a person by the script and by the speaker. So I guess it's just all about feel for me rather than I listen to this specific cliche.
Once again, the vibes.
Yeah.
The vibes, the vibes. Let's see. Next up is apathy.
Okay, so favorite like cliches.
Yes.
I would like to apologize to Ark for what I'm about to say.
Oh no.
But I love the evil ones. I love the crazies. I I love writing them. I love hearing them. They're that's my outlet, honestly. Like I don't care how old it gets. I will never stop.
We're all just gonna make
The
enemies out of him today.
No, that's great.
I
I
heard
mean,
you
it gets you
talking
fired up
earlier.
and you're doing it. That's great.
Yeah. I was like, oh shoot, he would hate to see my list of scripts I've written. Oh no.
I think it's more along the lines of like making it fit within the channel. And like, I don't want to pigeonhole myself, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like you establish patterns for what kind of content you can expect to find in a given channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, like I don't want to be the monster who's trying to eat your stomach. You know,
You
that's
don't want
not
to be
me.
the evil yandere guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've approached those things, but I always try to do it in a way that ends up being palatable, and that's
Hmm.
work. That's
Yeah.
work.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's flavors of each of them, if I can put it that way, I
Yeah.
guess. Because
Have
there's
you
like soft yandere, there's like soft evil, if that makes sense. Just compared to the more
have you seen
hardcore stuff
the
you see sometimes.
have you seen the chart? Because there's a chart for it.
I would like to see this chart.
Could could I
There's a
DM it to you?
yandere chart?
Is it one of those
Yeah,
like
I'd also like to see this.
the oh
Wait
my
a
gosh, what is
minute.
it, the alignment chart?
Yeah, but these
It's
works are at the far end, and
no. Hold on.
I
Oh,
can post it here. Attempt to
I mean,
post it.
here.
this actually kind of makes me think of the yandere billionaire from
It's Mackenzie
Mackenzie Mazing. Yep. So she made two different yandere characters, and one progressively gets creepier and like more evil over time, whereas the other just is an asshole to begin with. And because of the influence of the listener character, slowly becomes a better person over time. And it's not yandere in the typical sense, but maybe it's closer to what Ark is talking about, like the palatable yandere, whereas the other one is shown like the evil one, the one that gets more evil over time. Sorry,
So it's kind
that
of
one is shown as
yeah.
like a clear bad guy.
Yeah, kind of like you were saying, the more or less condoning it, and by the end that this character is just a better person, and you're, I guess, promoting a more positive outlook for this character.
Yeah, it's. I think if I remember correctly, the story is basically loosely Beauty and the Beast, where the last one is the billionaire's kind of like, I need to work on myself, so I'm going to let you go type thing. Whereas the other one, the other yandere one, was like, I'm going to keep you because I'm a full-on yandere. You're not escaping me.
I wish we could show this image that Apathy sent me. Okay, here it is.
Yeah. There we
Let me
go.
see if I can. Is there a way to download this image and then post it?
To me, I feel like some people say yandere, and what they really mean is just
They want
clingy.
somebody
And then
who
some
wants to
people,
stay with you forever. You know, like just the
like
very
there's
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's
there's
the
a
appeal, I think, for a lot
there's
of
a
people.
line like
there's
like
a
are they just
distinction between I want to be with you all the time. You're an important part of my life. and oh look, you're chained into my basement.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's a real important distinction. And
Yeah,
the latter is yandere, right?
it's like,
So
okay, so you say you like Andres. Do you mean like you like overly affectionate, or do you mean like the I would cut off your limbs if that's what it took to get you to stay with me? Like, because there's the distinction is very, it's a fine line.
That actually reminds me of like the villain conversation, which is very similar, where it's like they want someone that will burn the world for them and not the hero who will sacrifice them for the world.
Yeah.
It depends for me. Sometimes I like to go full on manipulation. It's not a romance, but I like the manipulation sometimes.
Mhm.
Not necessarily condoning it, but it's like I like darker stories.
I guess, do you at least make it like obvious that manipulation
I'm
is not?
self-aware about it. I put it in my tags. Something really funny is that I have this one script. It's called Villain Makes You Feel Wanted. And anyone who's actually listened to it, I've had very mixed, I guess, opinions from people. Or listeners, where some people will say, oh my gosh, this character is so romantic, I want a relationship like this. And then the other half is, oh my gosh, this character terrifies me. So, I mean, personally, like, I mean, I didn't put that there was romance at all in this script's tags. I made it very clear that it was drama, that it was not good. So I at least had some self-awareness there, but again, some people are just gonna see it one way or another, regardless of what your intentions are. That's just my take.
That's true.
So let me see if I can somehow figure out how to put this image in here. Where is it? Why is it impossible to find this thing? I just had it. Let me see if there's somebody else who can talk next while I look for this thing. Who was next? Oh, technically, wait. Did we get to you, Kat? I can't remember. Wait, who was talking next? Let me see. Oh, am I cutting out again? Can you hear me?
yeah, it seems okay now.
Okay.
It might just be a volume thing too.
Yeah, I'm trying to mess with my volume. Let me see.
You're doing great, buddy.
Technical difficulties, guys. Okay, like I said, I'm forgetting who was next because everybody was talking. Who hasn't gone?
I think we've all kind of gone. And it
Did you go
spiraled
Ark?
into a conversation.
I don't know.
Favorite cliches, I guess. You know, again, with the channel being pretty much all, relationship based stuff, the tension and drama around the whole friend to lover type ideas
Oh my gosh, this is huge.
kind of keep coming up. I think it has to do with like there are stakes for both people. Like they already like each other and they don't want to not see each other. So taking it to the next level, if something goes south, they're probably not going to be hanging out, right? And that's the whole drama part of that trope, I guess. So that keeps coming up over and over. Of course, it's not all that. I like branching out, but at the same time, I keep coming back. It's fun.
I don't know if everyone can see the image.
Yeah, this is a great chart here.
So
What
There's
did I
something
turn
off
back
about him.
to?
Oh my god.
It's really hard to make it bigger. But this is the chart we were
What did I
talking
come back
about.
to? What happened?
It's like I can fix him, but what if I don't want to?
Can you focus on like the small bubbles in the side?
Let me try to figure that out. Okay.
I feel like you're about to like pull out a whiteboard and like point like
I'll try to make it big enough. Here's the delusional type. I don't know. I'm just gonna slowly move it. Let me see. Actually, yeah, Kat, did you go already or no?
I have not gone. I
Okay,
was
you can go
AFK.
next while I move this around.
So what I usually like is comfort-based role plays, relationship-based role plays, sometimes mystery, fantasy, um, do like a bit of yandere and Versailles. But yeah, those are my cliches.
As we slowly move around this image, I feel like we're all just gonna like gang up on Arc today. I like my villains. I don't know if it's necessarily a cliche per se. If anything, actually, here's me getting on my soapbox. There's not enough like proper media out there where I get my hero X villain canon relationships. I am very upset by this. When it does happen, they kill somebody off, and it upsets me. I wish that there were more cases of it being the norm. And here's my take though on this is that I feel like because I feel like it's a popular thing to do in things like webcomics where they pair off like, oh, here's the main character and here's the villain together. Oh boy. But I think what really differentiates what I like compared to what other people make is that I don't like it when the villain is the other main character. Like they're like the main, like one of the main protagonists, quote unquote, but still a villain. I'd rather them act like a villain and come in periodically and have it be like a big deal that these two characters get together, but it's such a rarity. Like I've seen it maybe twice in my life and it's very unfortunate. So
Everyone,
I've taken it into my own hands.
I guess we gotta start writing now.
Yes, we do. So let's see, let me move on to our next question. We only have, actually, we have 3 more questions to go. And they are all from Grain of Salt. So this is for our writers. Have you ever used a creative matrix method? Draw a grid, add topics and story elements on each column and row, then come up with a new idea on its intersection. Or simply put, have you ever ideated by combining 2 seemingly random elements? Give an example. Let me do my randomizer. Apathy is first.
Okay. I've never done specifically what was said in the question, but I have character sheets. I've and this is outside of script writing, but in my main series that I have that's not like ASMR stuff. It what was I saying? Oh yeah. There's a family and I've like written down the family tree to like keep track of it when I'm talking about it as like a visual, but I've never used the intersection method that they were talking about. But I've like definitely used other things to like help craft ideas or lay things out for ease.
Such several methods of organization that we'll be hearing here. I'm very curious what everyone else has to say. Let's go back. I think this is almost like, oh, it's not the opposite of what we had to write. Arc is next.
I've never approached the idea making phase with that kind of roll the dice sort of perspective. I'm not saying that I'm not open to trying it, but I've always been more deliberate about where the stories come from. In some ways, I think that's a little scary, kind of leaving it open like that. But I would try it. Have I ever? No.
See what else others have to say about this, because this is an interesting one, I feel, because I think it kind of takes like a very, like, you need to be this super organized about everything to do it. I guess we'll see. What about you, Key?
I probably should, but I don't. It all goes back to the vibes for me. Kind of like, hey, this idea seems cool. Now I'm gonna write it, and I write it without really planning much of it um, until I've finished it, and then it's like I kind of go back and fix the things that need to be fixed uh, as I go.
So it's like consistently the vibes. You're just all vibes, Kate. That's what I'm getting from this. Honestly.
Yeah, pretty much all vibes.
Yeah,
But I definitely
all
have
vibes.
taken two. I have definitely taken two random elements and put them together. Or maybe they weren't random elements, but it was kind of like uh, I see this and I see that a lot, but I've never seen them together. So I stuck them together in an attempt to try and see what would come out of it. I can't always say that it worked well, but I tried.
Actually, something that we did a while back for the funsies here in the Discord server was that we did the wheel TM, where we did this challenge script as a group, and we just completely randomized a bunch of different genres and character archetypes and stuff, and you can come up with some really interesting ideas with that. I don't know if we could make like, I guess, a definitive wheel TM for people to use, just to kind of come up with some crazy storylines that we might not otherwise have done.
Could be fun, especially if it's just kind of like a random table type thing where you
Yeah,
can
we had
roll
like
on it
some.
and see what happens.
Let me go grab that script. It's really funny because we had all these really. I'm gonna show you guys these these tags because we had some interesting things that came up. Where was it? I know that like sus was one of the tags that came up twice for us, which kind of gives you an idea of what was going on there. We had like a Kamidera character. We had like a Yandere character, I think. Let me find it. Says... Oh no, it was Kudere. We had a Kudere and a Kamidera character. And then like two of the characters were like really sus. And then we had tiny characters. We had, it had to be sci-fi. The listener was normal sized, and it was bizarre, but we turned it into an interesting story. We called it "Tiny Scientists Build a Size Machine to Be with You." It was a very bizarre script, but it was funny. But it was all made with randomized genres. Anyways, next up is Kat.
I actually have used the method. Again, I used Obsidian. It's like a organizing writing app for writers. You can make webs, notes, graphic details out of it. I mean, I love Obsidian.
It's funny, I've never heard of this, and everybody keeps talking about it. I feel like I need to look into it now.
Can I add in something that's kind of related?
Oh, what?
Can I add in something
Yes,
that's
yes,
kind of related?
yes.
Yeah. So I don't even remember how I came up with this idea, um, but it sounds randomized, so I'll just mention it here. I have a series about vampires and coffee shops, which
It's
are
an
two
interesting
things
combination.
that get, yeah, and the series it's almost done. 4 out of 5. It goes a little bit off the rails. Gangs get involved. It feels like it was made with like a Wheel of Fortune thing,
It's
but nope.
completely randomized every part.
Yeah, it nope. It came all from my brain somehow.
It's because you're so talented.
Yeah, that's it.
Just got the
Surely.
vibes. That's where they came from.
Like, this would be fun.
It sounds fun, honestly. Like, I feel as though that would probably be kind of an interesting way to structure a script.
Yeah, I love the protagonist of it. He's such a sweetie pie.
Sounds so fun. Anyway, let me finish up or round out the question on my end. So no, I don't really have a creative matrix. I don't feel, I guess, organized in that sense. I feel like it kind of restricts me if I do something along those lines. I'm more of also the kind of the vibes type of person when I write my characters. A lot of it is, I don't even want to call it like an ad lib equivalent of writing, where you just kind of go with the flow of the conversation. Really, my organization comes from things like notes. The only thing that I really organize and properly, I guess, set up beforehand are, especially for my series, this is more common with my series than it is my one shots, where I'll write out a very long list of notes of what's going to happen in every single part. And I just constantly add things to those notes as I continue on, because a lot of them are just very scattered thoughts, and it's more of a general idea of what I want to happen in the story as opposed to every little thing that happens in the scene. So I kind of like giving myself a little bit of room so that I'm not completely restricted in what I want to do. So, okay, let us move on to our penultimate question. This is for our VAs. If you have to fill a script that has two speakers with distinct voices by yourself, what might the script be about? What are those two characters you can voice alternately? Let me randomize. The first is going to be... This really does not want to randomize. Okay, so Keys first. I don't know if I cut out accidentally. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
I can
good.
still hear it. I was
Okay.
just
Yeah.
helping a little.
Okay. Yeah, it was Key.
Question. I don't feel confident enough in my ability to switch back and forth between two characters, even if I can potentially do distinct voices by myself. So I don't think I'd ever put myself in the position where I'd have to do that. But if I absolutely had to, I'd try to make them as audibly distinct as possible, where it might be like, say, an American and I guess uh, an American from the South and maybe someone from Scotland. At least I is that what the question means?
I guess so. Yeah, like maybe again, like one of the answers in your case is just that it's you put on different accents for the characters. I guess
Maybe.
it's kind of similar to the distinctive like characters question from before. I guess
Yeah.
that if you were forced to have that in a single script. Yeah, maybe that helps for everyone else who comes next. I gotta go all the way down. Arc is next.
I'm sorry, you just cut out. Was that me again?
Yes, that was you. I'm sorry that it's cutting out so
It's
much.
all right.
I don't know what's going on.
Doing great.
I haven't done that in one audio. I think that like an individual has a texture to their voice that is effectively a fingerprint, right? And people generally can determine, oh, that's the same person, even if it's something drastically different. So, someone talking like this is still me. Like you could still tell it's me, Um, and is that okay? Yeah, that's probably okay. I mean, it depends on the context. I think of like Patrick Stewart doing A Christmas Carol on stage by himself, doing all the characters. Um, and I wouldn't be comfortable doing that, but he knocked it out of the park. Uh, and there's other instances of people who truly have truly able to embody a different mindset into the character in their head that comes out in their voice that helps distinguish between them. But particularly in the short form sort of stuff that I'm doing, I would shy away from it unless I had a particularly good use case. And I guess that's kind of what this question's asking. What would that use case be? I don't have one in mind. I don't know. I would certainly be open to trying it sometime, but I don't have one in mind at the moment.
I guess one example that I've seen is actually a script that I wrote for someone else where it's just the same character but with different voices. So it's technically like they're transforming into different people, but it's technically the same person. I don't know if that would be kind of, I guess, a way to cheat that in a way.
Yeah.
Kind of, hopefully. Because you're not really like becoming a different character personality wise. You're just kind of messing around with how your voice sounds. Actually, another thing that I'm surprised hasn't come up is like voice changers. If anyone uses those at all.
They haven't.
Yeah, kind of like those ones that make you sound like an alien. I've seen some people do that or make themselves sound more robotic and stuff.
I've used some post-processing techniques to, give an otherworldly voice a more alien character, but not so much a voice changer per se.
Mm-hmm. So more on the editing end.
Yeah.
Let's see, last up we have Kat.
I feel like the script might be about maybe a vampire who's keeping the listener for safety reasons, and the other speaker is like the same person of yourself, would be like the maid that comes in and takes care of you. Like the maid could sound like, "Oh well, dear, let's get you well dressed. We need to make you all dolled up." And the vampire lady could just be like, "Well, darling, don't you look delicious?" Just, I feel like it would be, I can voice low voices and I can also voice high. But yeah.
I think it's more of a tone thing in this case and less of like an accent.
Definitely. Tone and accent, definitely.
You can definitely sound very different, like just with tone by itself, honestly. Like you could have very distinct sounding characters that way. But yes, let us move on to the final question from Grain of Salt. And oh boy, the controversial question. Always for last.
You saved the meat for the end. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy, Grain of Salt, you had to do this to us, didn't you? So this is for everybody. What is your opinion on AI use by your audiences? For example, using AI speech synthesis on your voice, making chatbot by your script, and other AI uses you know. Are you against it? Oh boy, who's gonna go first with this? Let's see. Who's the victim? It's apathy.
Oh, can I ask for a clarification?
Yes.
This is specifically AI use by the audiences for the things that you have crafted, yes?
Yes, and I guess, well, they also say other AI uses, you know. I guess just AI in general. You can just turn it into an AI question, honestly. But yeah, apathy is first.
Okay, so I like to view myself not as the first victim, but the one who sets the precedent. So my thing with AI is ideally we wouldn't be using it in our creative work at all. Like AI art for thumbnails it's not. I know a lot of writers restrict that, where they're like, don't cover my scripts if you're going to use an AI thumbnail. And for me, I don't have that rule, but I understand why people do. Like it's for me, it's like I would prefer not, but I don't. It it's it's certainly a subject. But for chatbots, I really don't care, honestly. I don't know why there's that difference, like between my opinion on like AI art and like AI chatbots. Like if someone made a chatbot of one of my characters, I would probably find them and send them the character sheet so they can make it more accurate. I would totally geek out. But that's I can't really think of any other like AI use like that would affect me as a writer. Um, I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a good answer, honestly. Like, it's very I feel this is just a very personal question for
Yeah.
a lot of people, just because we all have our own opinions on it. Let's see. So, Key is next.
I kind of think I'm in the opposite camp, but I also have like qualifications for it. I don't want people using my voice for AI stuff. Um, if you really want to use it, ask me, and then I can record those voices for you instead. Same with scripts being used to train AI. I really don't want that happening. AI art is tricky. Um, I think the biggest thing is the art for an audience ends up being the biggest barrier from people actually being able to be VAs themselves. And the reason why it becomes a barrier is because it's pretty much, how much they have in terms of being able to support artists that can then make art for their audios. So I think if it's if AI art is being used as a way of just kind of I'm being cheap and I don't want to pay somebody despite being able to, I don't agree with that usage. Whereas if it's I really want to do this and I don't have any other ways to do this except through the usage of AI, then I'm not sure that's like the best, but it's at least a reason I can be okay with. So long as like there's a plan to, when you're in a position where you can pay for the art, um, go ahead and do so.
Okay. So, um, I am next on this, and it's kind of, I don't want to say I have like a very different opinion compared to yours, Key, but I have a very, I guess, loaded answer to this that I won't really get into as much because I feel like it's been beaten over, like, we beat the dead horse like a lot. And these sorts of discussions where there's ethical reasons why people are against this. And I really don't want to get too much into that itself. I personally am more going to say, and this applies to just VAs in general when working on, like, specifically for VAs, and I'm going to talk about audience participation in this after, but specifically for VAs, and I've had this issue a lot with my own scripts that people don't read my terms of use. And again, I'm very against the use of AI thumbnails for my scripts. I tell people in my terms of use to please respect that, and they don't sometimes. It really comes down to listening to what the writer wants with their work, because ultimately this content is being made by not just you as the VA, but also the writer. And it is as much their decision of what should come of their work as it is yours. And I feel like people like who use these scripts from other people need to take that into consideration and make sure that, you know, if you decide to use AI for your thumbnails, to not work on those people's scripts, right? Because you have very conflicting, I guess, like I've used the term, I guess, brands is the best way to put it. Like my personal brand might not work for somebody who uses AI based thumbnails, right? And I feel like that's the most important thing, just to respect the wishes. And this comes down to anything else, right? So I can just say, at least for my own opinion, it's like I wouldn't want people to make chatbots out of my script because it's my work. Why would I want someone to take my work and turn it into something else? I mean, you might as well write fan fiction, right? It's like I would prefer fan fiction over somebody throwing my work into a chatbot and it coming up with stuff on its own, because the AI doesn't really understand what it's doing, right? It's not really a creative force. At least I don't feel like it is. It's just spitting out things that were given to it. But again, really, it's just respect the person that you're getting this content from, because some people, again, you might be okay with some writers might be okay with you putting your scripts into a chatbot. Some VAs might be okay with using their voice to synthesize speech on their own, but really what it comes down to is respect the wishes of whoever you're getting that from, because we all have different opinions, and I can't speak for everyone and say that you have to do one thing or another, but at least in my case, I would hope that people respect my work the way that I want it to be respected.
Sounds pretty fair to me.
Mm-hmm. So, next person is Ark.
Derivative works, huh? I guess it hasn't come up that I know of. Someone trying to use snippets of my recorded voice to come up with an AI voice able to sound like me. I'd be flattered and at the same time terrified and probably pretty offended. I guess this is a different take on the AI discussion than I was, than I'm more familiar with kicking around inside my head, because this is from the perspective of the listeners, right? What they do with your stuff. And yeah, that's the whole idea of like trying to make sure that they capture Harrison Ford's voice for upcoming Indiana Jones movies. Like they had to negotiate that extensively with him to be able to do that stuff. And I'm not sure that they ever actually arrived at something, but he was looking for a huge payout because he felt it was a compromise of him as an individual, of him as a human, being able to contribute something that is his. And I guess I feel very much along the same way. Like if it's valuable enough that somebody wants to imitate it, please run it by me, because in general, I think I'm uncomfortable with that. And whether that's taken, just the words that are, a transcription of what I've spoken, or whatever the case may be. No, I'm not really comfortable with mashups, interpolations, samplings, etc. I think that's a step too far. And as far as, this wasn't really part of the direct question, but as far as AI participation in my work, Um, would I consider using an AI voice in my stuff? Yes. And I know I'm going to get some flack from some people for this. If I answer the question, have I? I'll say yes. In the context of like a clerk saying welcome or something like that, something real quick, absolutely, I have. If it's anything more than that, anything interactive, no, I'm not comfortable with it. Anything that requires emotional context, no, I need a human. Have I used AI thumbnails? Absolutely, because people are here for the voice. People are not looking at my thumbnail while they're listening to the thing. It's just the front page. And quite honestly, I don't make the money that would allow me to pay someone to make it. You're going to have to deal with that, folks. I'm sorry. And, you know, would I like to? Absolutely. Is there a difference in quality? Hands down. Can I? No. I'm going to be making AI generated stuff.
So you have two things that I want to comment on, actually. I like that you brought up the point of having, you know, like the little clerk thing where it's just like one line or something. I feel like there's a difference between something like an AI speech synthesis versus something like a text to speech, because at least the person who did the text to speech was paid for it, and they actively said, okay, you can use my voice to do that. So I don't know if people consider that like I don't want to say like a form of AI in a sense, compared to something like a full like emotional sort of thing, because like a lot of those don't really have emotion to them when they speak. It's just very monotone, but sometimes you actually do need that for your script.
Right. Well, like here's an example that I, you know, it's not a role play thing. It's outside the role play realm. But you know, if you're watching shorts on YouTube or something like that, I've seen videos that were cooking related that had Gordon Ramsay's voice. That was clearly not Gordon Ramsay. Like he wouldn't do that. It was an AI generated Gordon Ramsay voice, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's not okay." He didn't sign off on that. I'm sure of it. That's just not okay.
Yeah, like I feel especially agreed, like especially with that, it's at that point it's like, hey, because you're almost deceiving people in that sense. Like there's a difference between having, you know, like one of those you know, like the TikTok like text to speech voice where you kind of know like, oh, it's not really somebody talking, it's just like somebody typed up some words and this thing is saying things, but it almost comes down to deception in that sense, like with the Gordon Ramsay case. Because if it's like a cooking video, it's like, I mean, it's like you could kind of go around and say like, oh, like he's telling us the wrong information, but yeah, you can get in serious trouble for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I had that.
You know, these are all amazing tools, and they need to be used conscientiously.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what else you said. There was something else you said that I was going to comment on. What was it? Oh, I remember what it was. I know you mentioned something else about how people are here for your voice, and that's kind of off on a weird tangent, but I remember seeing people a lot talking about how they're having issues with the algorithm, right? And they're like, doesn't matter what type of thumbnail they're using. They're like, oh, I optimize my thumbnails, I optimize my my titles, my tags, and everything. I put everything into this, and they don't understand why they're not getting the views that they want. And I'm not even going to bring algorithm into this, but I feel like a lot of people really forget that just how important the acting is here, because they think that they're doing all this other extra stuff, and you know, like they're putting so much effort into editing, they're putting so much into all these other things to attract the listeners to come watch, but is the quality of your voice good enough? Like, is your acting good enough in some of these cases, right? I don't like putting people down,
Well,
but I mean, just I feel like some people don't
sure.
really consider it enough.
Sure. I mean, and the opposite is true, right? Somebody could do a wonderful job of voice acting, but they've got white text on a black background, and is anybody going to click on it? Like, you need to draw the listener to click on it, and then you need to be good to make them stay.
Yeah, There's so much that goes into it, though. I actually have seen some people succeed with the text only. I've seen people succeed before.
Yeah, don't get me started. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it works best for those bigger channels a lot of the time, the ones that already had a backing
Sure.
beforehand.
And like after a while, you're just going to start reusing.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've got enough of a library, you're going to be reusing stuff that you've already done. And at that point, you might as well simplify.
If you can make your cake and have it be like super intricate with a bunch of frosting, but if the cake tastes like cardboard, what good is it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's so many things that go
Yeah.
into it, and really, like, I think just the most important thing is the voice. Like, that's just me personally. I mean, I'm not gonna get into like say like vaguely mention stuff like GWA where you really only have the voice to go off of because they can't post their content to YouTube, right? Because it's NSFW, right? But those people are forced to, use their talent like just that, right? As opposed to taking into consideration visuals and stuff because it doesn't matter. Like, it's not going up on YouTube anyways. But obviously, that's not really going to work out in this setting.
Right.
Well, it's even more critical than the cake, honestly. To me, because like if you just make a cake that looks good, but it tastes like sawdust, they've already bought the cake. You've already got their money. Whereas in YouTube land, if they don't eat the whole cake, you're not getting paid.
So people are just going to click off, right? That's just how it is.
Yeah. You're not getting the view registered. You're not getting the ad revenue. Like, right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it needs to draw the eye and it needs to be good. It's harder than selling the cake.
It is a challenge. But let's actually move on to our final person to answer. It's going to be Kat.
Oh God, I have so many opinions about this.
Gotta end it off strong.
Yes.
With your opinion.
Yes.
No, I will never, and like I will not judge anyone who does this. Like I am not a judger. I'm not judging you. I don't judge anyone for this. But no, I will not let anybody use my voice for anything else. I even signed a waiver and put it like I don't even know where I put it, but like I put it somewhere and it was like I, Katarina Marie, deny your access to use my voice as your toy or whatnot. As for making a chat bot, maybe, but it depends on if you ask my permission. If you ask my permission, I might consider it. But if you just full on just do it, I'm going to what is the word? Not sue, but I think it's copyright? Something along
you
those
could
lines.
copyright claim. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I could copyright claim and I'm gonna do that. Like ask my permission first. With it coming with AI and the AI art, the only time, and I'm just gonna point this out, the only time I will ever use AI art is for a background. Not for like an actual character making, not for any of that. It's just like background wise, just to see like what I can recognize in AI art. So whenever someone tries to sell me it, I can recognize the little details and deny. I'm kind of really against AI, but for people who use it, I don't judge. I don't want to start fights with people who use it because that's just wrong. You do what you want to do. It is your stuff. It is your action. You do what you want to do. I'm not going to judge you for it.
I think pretty much everyone can agree, at least, that it all comes down to like the consent of the person involved. It doesn't matter, I guess, what, because again, everyone has their own opinions, but I think just in general, people need to ask first.
I'm glad no one here was like, yeah, I'll use AI, even if
Like, even if you don't
people
want to,
don't
I
want me
would be very
to.
upset. Kick you off this panel.
For your permission.
Like, right, like you're not
Well.
giving, you're not, you don't need my permission to take my stuff. Or I don't need your permission to kick you off.
Well, I mean, it's more of a basic question of just derivative works in general. Like the fact that it's got, some automated elements to it. So what? Like, are you sampling my voice and using it somewhere else? It's the same damn thing, effectively. Would somebody do that? Probably not. But you call it AI and therefore it's okay? No, hell no. No, absolutely not.
Nope.
And I think what Blue's saying, it is largely around consent. Ask the person if there's, unless they've already given carte blanche permission to go and do stuff with their works, you need to ask. And if you're not, you're doing it wrong, and you're going to end up in internet jail.
Oh yeah.
This is why we have terms of use. Please read them, guys. Otherwise, you're going to go in my naughty list. I have a naughty list on my master list, actually. I compile every single fill that I can find, and if you don't do what I ask you to do, you're not going to be on my Blue's Choice list. Unfortunately.
Fun fact, the first fill I ever got was from someone who did not read my terms of use, and there was it wasn't like a big controversy, but I had to handle it, and it wasn't great. So yeah, don't be that person.
Respect everyone's boundaries.
Because if you don't know who's going to show up at your door. Maybe
you don't know.
Yeah, going to maybe have
might
some
show up
have
in
some
your
words.
DMs. I've actually done that before. I've gone into people's DMs and I've gone into their YouTube comments too. I've made comments.
I had to email them because I don't want to go into too much detail, but it was a VTuber who is like in an agency. So I don't know whose fault it was. I don't know if it was the VTuber or their agency, but it was, and then it happened again. They did it again, which, oh,
it's just a sad thing in the community. So I might
it's
be
not hard
preaching to the
respect.
choir, but like it's good to reiterate. I always have to bring this up all the time in the podcast. Please, please, please read the terms of use every time. I don't care who. Just keep doing it. Anyways, that was actually our final question. Again, thank you all for being here. It was great. We were here for 3.5 hours. We've had longer, but I'm glad that we were able to get through all of these, and you all are able to stick around. If you all want to do any last-minute shameless plugs, this is your time to do it.
Go listen to all these other people's channels. go use their scripts, boost them up.
Read the terms of use first.
Read the terms of service first.
Remember
the lessons you've learned today.
If there's anything you've learned. And have confidence. Have confidence. Stick to the vibes.
That's right.
If we've learned anything today, it's to ask for consent.
Consent is key.
Consent is.
I mean,
really?
there's even if we write even if we write the dubcon, we still want that consent.
Any consent.
But yes, again, all these people's handles are in the description of this live stream. So please, please, please go check them all out. They are incredible people. again, thank you all for joining us today. It was very nice having you all. Hopefully we'll have another one fairly soon. I know this one took a while to come out. It was like, again, it's been like 6 months since the last one. We'll try to get more in. And something to keep in mind is that we're going to try to bring on more of our older panelists, kind of similar to what we did before with the anniversary stream, but a little bit more on a smaller scale, maybe like 3 or 4 people on this stream. I know that we had 2 people that I might be bringing on fairly soon, which are Skittles, who had asked a couple questions here, as well as Turtle Shark. We'll see who else will be joining us next time. But also you guys here during this stream will be part of that, I guess, the pool of people I can ask. So in case y'all want to join again, there are opportunities to do so.
This has been fun. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Listen,
again.
I would.
Delight.
But yeah, so catch y'all later. Thank you all for being here. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being an
Bye.
amazing host.
Yeah,
thank
thank you, Blue.
I'm glad to be able to provide.